Chapter 401. Looking for Yang Yi. Murphy no longer had as many worries as before. When she came back in the afternoon, she directly talked to Yang Yi about today's matter. Then, she said in confusion, Shawan said to drag it out and not tell Sister Ling, but I don't think that's good. Although I don't want to continue the contract at all, I can't keep hiding it from Sister Ling. You feel bad? Yang Yi asked with a smile. Yes, even if Sister Ling has become a stranger now, she still helped me a lot in the years when I debuted. She has done me a favor, so I hope we can part on good terms. If I keep dragging it out, won't we be like enemies? Even if we meet in the future, we won't say hello? Murphy said worriedly. In fact, this was an unsolvable situation. Murphy wants to leave, but Niu Meiling definitely won't be willing to leave with this big signboard. When the time comes, a falling out is inevitable. It was just that Mo Fei was still fantasizing about whether there were two other possibilities. If it was Yang Huan, Yang Yi would definitely scold her and say that she can't be too naive. But now that Murphy looked at him pleadingly, Yang Yi's heart softened. He decided to help Murphy think of a way. Got it. If he wanted Murphy and Tianmei to break up peacefully, then he had to make Niu Meiling take a step back. But he couldn't be stupid enough to throw money to make Niu Meiling happy. He could only find another way. Didn't Zhu Jie pat his chest and say that he has shares in Tianmei, and that Niu Meiling is his relative? If he really has the ability to persuade Niu Meiling to let go of the past and let Murphy leave smoothly, then he might be able to reward him with a song. I have an idea. I can talk to your sister Ling directly, but don't worry, this matter can't be rushed. Yang Yi comforted Murphy. Really? Mo Fei misunderstood what he meant, and she asked in surprise. Can I really tell Sister Ling everything? Well, don't worry, I have a way to make her not care about your parting. Yang Yi was not completely sure, but he had to give Murphy confidence. At worst, he could kidnap Murphy and give her a Zhu Jie who was as popular as Murphy. Wasn't it just 12 songs? With Sister Ling's personality, she should be able to accept such an exchange, right? In the evening, when Shishi returned home, Murphy, who was already in a good mood, helped the little girl untie her school bag and asked with a smile, Shishi, did anything happy happen at school today? They learned English today, Yang Yi interjected. Learning English? Then wouldn't Shishi have an advantage? You can speak so much English now. Murphy asked expectantly. Shishi smiled happily. She waved her hand and said, No, Chi-Chi is also very good. Her papa is an English teacher. Tell your mom. What did you learn today? Yang Yi held back his laughter. I learned Dipap, Panama, and Orange. Shishi did not feel her father's malice. She happily said to her mother. The first two were all strange pronunciations, but the latter two were correct. What's Ipap? Murphy was confused. It's apple hee. Shishi grabbed the big apple on the table, twisted her little hand, and gave her mother an example. Apple is obviously a pap. No, it's apple. How could it be a pap? Murphy was almost led astray by the little girl. She could not help but laugh. Haha, in the car, I also pondered for a long time before I figured out what she was talking about. Yang Yi said cheerfully. That's still not right. Shishi, Mom remembers that you used to say this word. Did the kindergarten teacher mispronounce it? Murphy frowned. She began to suspect that the kindergarten teacher misled the children. No, Teacher Kai said apple. Shishi got it right this time, she giggled and said. Then Xiner said Ipap, it's so fun. Then you can't mispronounce words just because it's fun. And since Xiner mispronounced it, you have to help your good friend and teach her how to pronounce it correctly. Murphy educated her. Shishi felt a little unhappy being scolded. She pouted and said, But Teacher Kai already taught her. In the end, Lon Xin still did not learn it. How could this be blamed on Shishi? Yang Yi smiled and mediated for them. Alright, it's not a big deal, it's okay if you can't learn it. Anyway, learning English now is just to cultivate a sense of the language. Children are more likely to accept new things, and establish the feeling of speaking this language early. It won't be difficult for them to learn it in the future. As for the accuracy of the pronunciation, it can be slowly corrected after school. Moreover, we will go abroad to play in the future. When we go abroad and face real foreigners, It will be easier to force ourselves to listen and speak in this kind of context than to ponder over it word by word now. Yang Yi patted Shishi's little head and smiled. Papa, where are we going abroad? Shishi's interest was aroused when she heard that they were going abroad. Abroad there are many places, and everywhere there are people who look different from us. They may have blonde hair and white skin, or curly hair and black skin, but they are all very interesting people. Yang Yi smiled and explained. I know, Grandpa's place. We are going to Grandpa's place to play. Shishi jumped excitedly, and was very excited. However, when talking about this, Murphy remembered the conversation she had with Mo Shawan today. In the evening, after Shishi had enough fun and fell asleep, Murphy poked Yang Yi, leaned on his shoulder and asked, Hubby, let me ask you, do you care about my current job? I run outside all day and often have to go on business trips. Yang Yi reached out and held Murphy in his arms, smiled gently and said, Why would I care? I know you are doing it for work. No, you have to tell me the truth. You can't just comfort me. I don't spend much time with you and Shishi sometimes has opinions. What about you? Murphy drew circles on Yang Yi's chest and said a little nervously. Well, to be honest, I still hope that we can spend more time together. For example, you, Shishi and I can take some time to travel together and see the great mountains and rivers of our motherland. Or go abroad to play, to see the canton of Venice, to see the Seine River. Even Mo Fei herself was a little confused. She murmured, I actually like traveling very much, but most of the time, I can't help myself. When I was pregnant, I went to Europe for a few days. But after so many years, this is the only trip I've taken. Hubby, I know I'm not doing well right now. Can you give me some time? Murphy propped herself up and looked at Yang Yi. She said sincerely, Give me a few more months to fulfill the responsibilities of this contract for Sister Ling, then I will come to our studio and no longer participate in those commercial performances and announcements. I will only release songs and hold concerts. The rest of the time, I will accompany you and Shishi, and then we can go on a trip together. Why are you so silly and cute? I already said I didn't care. Yang Yi laughed. He reached out and pinched Murphy's nose and said, Don't give yourself so much pressure. I'm actually very happy to see you at night. But I think you care. Murphy muttered vaguely. I'm also afraid that you will find another woman. Murphy was frightened by Mo Xiaojuan's story. Before she and Yang Yi were together, she was a person with a very low sense of security. Of course, now she knew what kind of person Yang Yi was. If he really liked to cheat, he wouldn't have clearly distanced himself from the flower shop owner. What did you say? Yang Yi didn't hear clearly. Nothing. Murphy stuck out her tongue and smiled mischievously. I know what to do. No, what did you just say? Yang Yi was a little curious. No, I said I love you. Murphy giggled, lying on Yang Yi's chest and looking up at him. Yang Yi was immediately attracted by her cuteness. He rubbed Murphy's head and smiled. I love you too. Chapter 402. Regarding Murphy's matter, Yang Yi still prioritized it and contacted Zhu Jie. However, Zhu Jie went diving with his family in Australia during Chinese New Year, and he was still eating lobsters. Although he received a message from Yang Yi that he would return as soon as possible, it was still a long journey, and it would take him a few days to book a flight. Before waiting for Zhu Jie to return, Yang Yi first went to see the lawyer, Hu Yang, recommended by Lance Hao Kai, regarding Lu Xiaoshu and Mao Chuan's matter. Hu Yang opened his own law firm and partnered with several practicing lawyers. He was indeed a famous lawyer. Many people came to see him because of his reputation. His front door was as busy as a marketplace. However, Hu Yang would leave the general defense cases to his partners, while he would pick some difficult cases, such as Yang Yi's case, and personally go into battle. Mainly, it has to be challenging and interesting. Hu Yang smiled at Yang Yi as he continued. Otherwise, how boring would it be to fight trivial cases of divorce? Hu Yang's age was roughly in his 30s. Although Yang Yi could tell that he wasn't obsessed with cleanliness, he paid great attention to his image, and even his dressing was meticulous. His skinny face was so clean that it looked like he had applied BB cream. He had a meticulously trimmed mustache and a small stubble on his chin. Not only did he not look sloppy, but he also had a unique style. His hair was also meticulously combed and styled with gel, making him look spirited. Huiyang wore a black woolen windbreaker that wasn't cheap, and his rimless spectacles left a deep impression on others. They complemented his eyes and enhanced his temperament. Then again, he would definitely be a villain in other novels if he was dressed so handsomely. But here, he was just a lawyer with a brilliant record. Then, what do you think about this case? Can it be successfully terminated? Yang Yi didn't care about anything else and asked straightforwardly. Huiyang probably sensed that Yang Yi wasn't the kind of person who liked to chat, so he didn't say anything else. He put away his previous formulaic smile, and only left a trace of a smile. Right now, I have too little information on my side. I only know some of the person's experience from you. This is not enough to determine whether or not the contract can be terminated. However, based on the past, including the entertainment lawsuits that other lawyers have fought, I can tell you that the entertainment industry's contracts are more or less problematic. Entertainment management companies often exploit loopholes in the law and take advantage of the fact that new actors and singers are not familiar with the law to set up traps in their contracts for personal gain. Yang Yi listened to him quietly. Due to the scale of the entertainment industry's development, our country's judicial authorities also attach great importance to it. 2 years ago, new laws and regulations were introduced for all aspects of the entertainment industry. If there are still some unilateral traps in the contract, then the contract can be ruled invalid. Yang Yi understood and asked, "You want to see their contract?" Not only that, I also need to talk to the two parties and understand the objective process of the whole incident from them. Huiyang said, "Perhaps there will be some evidence collection work that needs their cooperation." Yang Yi nodded. "That's not a problem. I'll tell them later and ask them to come to you." The first meeting with lawyer Huiyang lasted less than an hour. It was concise and comprehensive. After talking about the matter, Yang Yi left. It couldn't be helped. They charged by the hour. Although Yang Yi didn't care about the money, he had spent 3,000 yuan just to talk for less than an hour. Moreover, this was only the consultation fee. The legal fees for the lawsuit would be calculated separately. Thinking of this, Yang Yi couldn't help but shake his head. He thought to himself, what a scam. So be it. As long as he could solve the contract problems between Lu Xiaoshu and Miao Chuan, Yang Yi didn't care about the small amount of money he spent. Yang Yi had already returned. However, Yang Yi didn't let her help in the coffee shop every day like last year. Instead, he helped her sign up for a pre-exam training class, so that she could focus on preparing for the art exam that was coming in a few months. Recently, Ding Xiang had also started learning how to drive. Yang Yi enrolled her in a driving school, starting from the theoretical knowledge. For the past 2 days, she had been nervously studying the question bank for Subject 1, as if she was preparing for the college entrance examination. Fortunately, Ding Xiang was only reading now. She didn't leave her job in the coffee shop. Otherwise, Yang Yi, the boss, would have to put on his uniform again. One day Lin Mu and came over with an embarrassed face. He raised his hand with teeth marks and asked, "Boss, why do your cats like to bite people these days? Aren't they usually very obedient?" Lin Muan liked cats. Sometimes, Yang Yi would bring the 3 British Shorthairs down. He would always play with them for a while. Although the cat owners often ignored him, he still chased after them enthusiastically and helped them stroke their fur. Usually, Ding Xiang would not help to take care of the 3 kittens for the sake of food hygiene. Now that Lin Mu and liked to play with them, Yang Yi was happy to see it. "Bite people?" Yang Yi asked in surprise. "Did you provoke them?" "How could that be? I'm very nice to them." Lin Muan complained. He even lifted his leg to show Yang Yi his trouser leg. "Look, my trouser leg is almost torn by them." Saying this, Yang Yi remembered that Little Gray and Dao Dao had been a little irritated these past few days, especially Little Gray, who had been biting everywhere. "They should be growing out their teeth soon, right?" A customer next to them overheard their conversation and said with a smile, "Your 3 cats, looking at their age, are about to grow out their teeth. During this period, it's normal for them to be a little anxious." Do you want to take them to the vet to get their teeth out? Lin moo, and was still very concerned about the 3 cats. Although they had been bitten, he still helped them ask. Yang Yi was reminded by the customer and remembered the cat-rearing book he had read before. He had an answer in his heart. However, the customer answered first. He could not help but laugh. How could that be? It's just like when people grow out their teeth. In fact, they fall out naturally, and then new teeth grow out. It's just that it's a little difficult during this period. I have to buy them teeth-grinding sticks. Yang Yi smiled slightly. The customer looked at Yang Yi, nodded and said, yes, buy the kind of catnip. That teeth-grinding stick cat likes it the most. Right, have your 3 British short hairs been sterilized? The customer was obviously also a poop picker. He was very interested in talking about cats. They don't need to be sterilized, right? Yang Yi hesitated and said. He had heard about this a long time ago, but Yang Yi was not very willing, because he felt that sterilizing cats was like asking a person to be a eunuch. It was a little cruel. Yes, of course. It's necessary to sterilize cats because your cats are about to go into estrus. When cats go into estrus, the possibility of pregnancy is almost 100%. Then they will give birth to a litter of at least 3 to 5 cats in their lifetime. If there are more and more cats, you will definitely not be able to raise them. If you let them wander the streets and become stray cats, I think you can't bear it, the customer advised Yang Yi. Then when they go into estrus, you can control them. Don't let them run out of the door, and don't let them gather together. Is that okay? Yang Yi asked. If cats go into estrus and don't mate, it's not good for their bodies. Male cats are fine. At most, they will pee everywhere, and then the whole house will be filled with a strong cat smell. Female cats are miserable. They don't mate when they go into estrus. Over time, they will get sick, and finally die of genital diseases. Yang Yi didn't know where he got this knowledge from, but anyway, his words made Yang Yi's hair stand on end. Not to mention the cat smell, Yang Yi thought of a bunch of kittens in his house every few months, and he had a headache. It seems that I can only let you guys do a surgery. Yang Yi looked at Xiao Guai and said in his heart. The 3 kittens didn't feel that their doom was coming. They were still playing and chasing each other without any worries. Chapter 403. With Mu Yuqing's personality, he did not like shopping. Now that he was a department manager, his work was getting busier, and he did not have much time to go out. Even if he could take a few days off after completing a project, Mu Yuqing would rather stay at home and sleep. Fortunately, shopping websites were on the rise now, and many things could be bought directly online. Mu Yuqing had even more reason to stay at home. For example, today, Mu Yuqing saw that his slippers were broken. Although they could still be worn, they were a little leaky and uncomfortable. If it was this time last year, he would have gone downstairs to the nearby supermarket to buy a pair. Now Mu Yuqing subconsciously opened his computer and prepared to place an order on Sahara Online Mall. Shopping websites were very popular this year. Under the pursuit of venture capital, all kinds of shopping websites popped up one after another. Advertisements on TV were also bombarded nonstop. However, Mu Yuqing was set on Sahara Online Mall when it came to online shopping. As a senior in the IT industry, Mu Yuqing also studied other shopping websites out of curiosity. However, those websites were mixed. Not only was the operation interface confusing, but the service level was also incomparable to Sahara Online Mall. When it came to online shopping, except for homebodies like Mu Yuqing, most people were still going for the cheap prices. Therefore, if they wanted to compete with Sahara Online Mall, most shopping websites had to invest their energy in price wars. They did not even have the time and money to build a complete customer service team. Most of the time, they could not even find anyone to ask at night. However, even if it was a price war, it still required capital support. Websites with venture capital might be able to last for a while, but websites without venture capital could only walk a tightrope and use some underhanded methods. Therefore, Mu Yuqing saw that many inferior shopping websites had cheap products, but the quality of the products was not guaranteed. Many netizens who bought the products questioned whether the website was selling fake products. Sahara Online Mall was still the best. An old brand, good quality, cheap and trustworthy. Moreover, Mu Yuqing admired Sahara Online Mall's logistics. He lived in Guangzhou, and basically, the things he bought would arrive the next day if it was close to the source. For the goods that were far away, it would be delivered in 2 or 3 days. Mu Yuqing felt that Sahara Online Mall was on the right track to invest in improving the user experience. However, when Mu Yuqing logged on to Sahara Online Mall's website today, a new banner advertisement attracted his attention. It was a very simple advertising slogan. Yang Yi's new book is on sale. Yang Yi's name alone was enough to attract Mu Yuqing's attention. As a die-hard fan of Yang Yi, Mu Yuqing was still bitterly watching Prison Break and Yuzu every day. Now that he saw that Yang Yi had released a new book, how could he not check it out? It really was Yang Yi. The newly opened interface gave a full introduction of the author. Yang Yi, a new writer. Since his debut a year ago, he has successively written Drawing Sword, Assault of Soldiers, Yuzue, Prison Break, and Shishi's bedtime stories. His works span the fields of military, crime, fairy tales, and so on. He is extremely good at character portrayal and plot structure. His works rely on bold ideas and fascinating stories to make readers unable to put them down. Mu Yuqing did not even need to look at these introductions. He already knew what to expect. He had basically collected all of Yang Yi's books. Even Prison Break, which had just sold the first and second volumes of physical books, was already on the bookshelf. What he was curious about was what Yang Yi's new book was. It was still a pre-sale, but the name of the book had already been given. Walk in the White Night. What kind of name was that? Mu Yuqing was a little confused. Day was day, night was night. What did Walk in the White Night mean? Or was someone called Walk in the White Night? Just like Yuzue, Yang Yi directly used the name of the protagonist to give the book a meaningful name. However, he soon found the answer in the 2 pictures below. The pre-sale page showed the cover and back pages of Walk in the White Night. The cover was very simple. It was a black silhouette of 2 children, a man and a woman. It seemed like there was a projection. The 2 silhouettes also refracted 2 enlarged versions of the gray projection. The back page was also simple. Other than some pricing, barcodes, the publisher's logo, and a reduced version of the gray projection, there was a paragraph of text. There is no sun in my sky. It is always night, but it is not dark because there is something replacing the sun. Although it is not as bright as the sun, it is enough for me. With this light, I can see night as day. I have never had a son, so I am not afraid of losing it. This was a seemingly heartwarming paragraph, but when Mu Yuqing read it, he could not help but have some goosebumps. It was a little creepy. For some reason, Mu Yuqing had such a feeling. This work seemed to be different from Yang Yi's previous books. In the past, even if Yang Yi's books were evil, they made people feel warm and happy when they read them. However, this book, which he had not read, made Mu Yuqing feel warm just based on this sentence. What kind of work was it? Mu Yuqing looked at the editor's note below. Yang Yi is a very imaginative and creative author. He has never been stubborn with a single theme. Now he is once again trying a new field and releasing his first mystery novel. Unlike his previous works, Yang Yi's Journey by White Night deeply dissects the evil of human nature and the controversial kindness on the other end of the evil. As the title of Journey by White Night describes, the protagonist searches for the light in the darkness. Seemingly unrelated stories interweave into a suffocating network, displaying the color of mystery to the fullest. Perhaps the whole book is as cold and dark as the night, but I want to say that this is a novel about love. That is the only warmth and light. So mysterious? It reflected the feelings of 2 extremes, but it was also like those horror movies. The scarier it was, the more fascinating it was. Moreover, the analysis of human nature mentioned in the editor's note was also part of Mu Yuqing's interest. He felt that this book was becoming more and more interesting, and he wanted to read it more and more. Buy it. What are you waiting for? It's rare that Boss Yang Yi has a novel that doesn't need to wait for an update to be released. Mu Yuqing, like many other fans who heard the news, excitedly clicked buy it now, and couldn't wait to pay. He still had to wait until March, but Mu Yuqing was already full of anticipation. Murphy went to Beijing in advance to prepare for the first concert. However, on this day, Yang Yi received a text message from the kindergarten teacher, saying that the kindergarten would organize a parent-child spring outing on the weekend. Parents were encouraged to participate. Yang Yi naturally had to go. Although it was only climbing the not-so-tall pavilion mountain, Yang Yi felt that it would be very interesting to participate in activities with his daughter. Almost at the same time, Jianchua knocked on Niu Meiling's office door. She said to Niu Meiling with a strange expression, "Sister Ling, I received an email from that person again. It's quite troublesome. Do you want to take a look?" Who? Niu Meiling didn't understand. It's the paparazzi who took photos of Zhenzhen causing trouble after drinking. His nickname is Teacher Mouth. Jianchua used her own artist as an example and hinted with a conflicted expression. Niu Meiling frowned. What trouble did Zhenzhen cause this time? Didn't I tell you to tell her to be more honest and not let the company clean up her mess all day long? It's really not Zhenzhen's fault this time. The thing that they want to sell is not Zhenzhen's. Jianchua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then whose is it? Chapter 404. After a while, Niu Meiling and Jianchua looked at the photo sent by Teacher Ko in the email. They looked at the photo of Murphy and a tall man walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, hand in hand. After a while, Niu Meiling frowned and pointed to Yang Yi's face in the photo and said, "Who is this man?" Jianchua shook her head and said, "I don't know. The little girl in his arms should be Murphy's daughter, Shishi." "Do I need you to introduce me?" Niu Meiling rolled her eyes. "Sister Ling, is this man Murphy's man? It seems that he is very close to Shishi. But didn't you say that the father of her child has passed away?" Jianchua asked doubtfully. "I made that up. I asked Murphy, but she refused to say who the father of the child was. It was as if she had been deceived and had given up on that man. If I don't make up a reason, what if you guys make wild guesses and spread it out as gossip?" Niu Meiling said casually, staring at Yang Yi in the photo. In the photo, the man and Murphy were holding hands and looking at each other. The sweetness in their eyes could be written, so it was impossible to explain with a driver. Moreover, when Murphy was with that man, she looked like a little bird, which made Niu Meiling a little jealous. She felt like her own daughter was being taken away by someone else. At this time, Jianchua asked, "Hey, Sister Ling, what do you think they are doing at the Civil Affairs Bureau?" At this time, Jianchua also paused. Niu Meiling and she looked at each other, and suddenly revealed a tacit understanding. "Do you still need to ask this question? What else can a pair of lovers do at the Civil Affairs Bureau?" Niu Meiling was relatively calm. She directed Jianchua, "Send an email back in my name and ask him what he means." "Lu Yu," Teacher Ko replied quickly, as if he had been waiting in front of the computer. "Sister Ling, he told us to name a price." Jianchua turned around and sighed. In fact, when Jianchua sent the email, she already knew how the other party would respond. It was exactly the same as after Zhen Muqian's accident. If they were worried that the photos would be exposed, they would have to buy them back. Of course, they had learned from their peers that this extorting teacher was quite famous in the industry. His reputation was quite good. Generally, if you paid him, you wouldn't have to worry about your photos being exposed. Teacher Ko was a man of his word. Niu Meiling ignored Jianchua. She frowned and looked at the new photo that was sent to her via email. Compared to the previous screenshots, this photo was a little blurry, as if it had been taken by a phone with poor pixels. It was a photo with a red background. Murphy and the man's smiling faces were printed in the photo. It was obvious. What a daredevil. He secretly went to get married, and was even secretly photographed. Even his wedding photos have been dug out. Didn't he sign a confidentiality agreement with the Civil Affairs Bureau? Niu Meiling couldn't help but curse in her heart. She didn't know that Murphy had signed a confidentiality agreement with the Civil Affairs Bureau. None of the photos taken with the officials inside were leaked. And Murphy's wedding photos were actually tricked by the resourceful Lu Yu. "How is it? Do you want to ask Murphy?" Jianchua asked in a low voice. Niu Meiling shook her head gently and said, "The result is the same. In the end, we still have to clean up her mess. Don't say it first, so as not to affect her concert. You can talk to Teacher Ko and buy the photos. Now that Murphy's career is on the rise, We can't expose her marriage and having a child. The impact will be too great. Of course, this was not Neo Miling's real idea. She didn't want to talk to Murphy about this now, mainly because she didn't want to affect her contract renewal with Murphy. Secondly, Neo Miling also wanted to wait for Murphy to sign the contract renewal before she settled the account with Murphy. The money to clean up her mess had to be deducted from Murphy's share. If she said it now, wouldn't the company have to help her pay for the photos to show generosity and care? Neo Miling had also thought of another possibility. For example, she simply did not pay and let Teacher Ko expose this photo to the public, which would suppress Mo Fei's reputation. And then she would not need to renew the contract with Mo Fei. Anyway, with so many classic songs after a period of trouble, under the company's public relations operation, Murphy could still restore her fame. After all, she was now a strong singer, not an idle singer who would have a tragedy after marriage. But Neo Miling couldn't do this, because after this news was exposed, the fact that she knew about it but didn't do anything could not be covered up. If the teacher was also exposed, it would affect her image and her relationship with Mo Fei, which would bring a lot of trouble to the contract renewal. At that time, Murphy wouldn't renew the contract, and Tian Mei would lose even more. The risk was too great. 2 days later, Jian Chua and Teacher Ko reached an agreement. Tian Mei paid 500,000 yuan to buy all the information, videos, and photos about Murphy's matter. LVU was a smart person. He knew that if he was forced, Tian Mei and Murphy might directly disclose it, so he didn't ask for too much. At a price acceptable to both parties, he packaged the information and sold it to Murphy's agency. Sister Ling is really loyal. It's a pleasure to deal with you. Don't worry, I'll send the information to you. I'll clear the hard drive here and not leave any traces. See you in the future. After LVU confirmed the receipt of the money, he sent the email. After Jian Chua received the email, she opened it and showed it to Neo Miling. Sister Ling, what do we do next? Jian Chua stood aside and looked at Neo Miling. Neo Miling took out a USB and copied the email and information into the USB. Then, she used a tool to crush the original document on Jian Chua's computer. Forget about this matter. Just pretend it never happened. Neo Miling stood up and looked at Jian Chua lightly. Jian Chua froze for a moment. Then she nodded cleverly. Neo Miling took the USB back to her office, sat in the boss chair, and played with it for a while. However, her gaze wasn't on the USB. Instead, she frowned slightly and looked into the void, thinking about something. Suddenly, she muttered a few words. You're married, but you don't even tell Sister Ling Murphy you've changed. For some reason, Neo Miling's eyes revealed a trace of loneliness. However, this emotion flashed by, and she quickly became as determined as usual. She opened the safe and put the USB in. I hope you haven't really changed your heart. The safe closed with a bang. That night, Murphy's Jixin interview was broadcast on Shanghai TV. On the screen, when Murphy faced Luo Xian's words, Mu Xiang is the man who understands you the best, she didn't deny it. Moreover, the corner of her mouth revealed a smile, which was seen by many viewers. At that time, under Murphy's micro-broadcasting and Mo Xiaochuan's broadcast notice, the netizens expressed their shock and speculations. Wow, is this a hint? Could it be a publicity stunt? Didn't you say that it was impossible between you and Mu Xiang? Liar. I remember that the music came on quickly, and you even said that Mu Xiang only sang for you because he liked your song. How did it become that he understands you? It shouldn't be a publicity stunt. Now that the results are so good, is there still a need for publicity? Can't you use your brain? I support Murphy and Mu Xiang as a couple. One is the best at singing, the other is the best at writing songs. They'll be so beautiful together. Hee. I also support Chen Yijie and Mu Xiang as a couple. Chen Yijie is also the best at singing. Don't be jealous, okay? I don't care who Murphy is with. Anyway, I like Murphy's songs. Same, but I do like Murphy and Mu Xiang together. They're so compatible. If they're together, they can give us more songs like Listen to the Sea. Just as the micro-broadcasting was arguing, an international flight slowly stopped at Shanghai Hongqiao International Airport. Zhu Jie had a big-eyed frog pillow around his neck. He was dressed casually but looked handsome. He excitedly pushed his suitcase to the exit. Uncle Muziang actually came to me for help. Haha, Jujie's chance to be famous again is here. He had a good sleep on the plane, and now he was full of energy at night. He was so excited that he couldn't help but dance around his suitcase. He had specially practiced this for the variety show. However, he was a little carried away and forgot that he was still in public. His crazy dance attracted a lot of attention. Wow, isn't that Jujie? Jujie, give me your autograph. Several professional fans who were waiting for celebrities at Hongqiao rushed up excitedly. Jujie was dumbfounded, but he reacted quickly. He quickly put away his cheeky smile and put on a cool expression. Are you my fans? You want my autograph? Okay. Jujie, you're so handsome. Jujie, I really like your songs. Every word of flattery almost made Jujie to heaven. Chapter 405. After Mo Fei's show was broadcasted, it caused a lot of waves. The media report the next day caught Tianmei's public relations department a little off guard. They didn't get any notice from Mo Fei and Mo Shaowan at all, so they didn't know that she would make such a mess. But from Murphy's side, they only received a vague response. There's no such thing. It's just a misunderstanding. There's no need to clarify. Since it was a misunderstanding, why wasn't there a need to clarify? The manager of the public relations department was about to curse. However, things didn't seem to be as bad as they thought. Things didn't get out of hand because of the scandal. Now that micro-broadcasting was emerging, more and more celebrities had opened their own verified accounts. People in the entertainment industry also gradually realized the importance of micro-broadcasting as a bridge between celebrities and their fans. The public relations department would also collect feedback from the fans through micro-broadcasting. However, the feedback they received from this incident left them scratching their heads. Although there were still some fans who expressed that they could not stand the scandal, most of the fans unexpectedly chose to support Murphy and Muziang as a couple. What was going on? The world was developing too fast. Were they unable to keep up with the pace? The public relations department thought for a long time, and could only reluctantly explain that the fans liked Murphy, so they liked Murphy's songs, and so they also liked to write Murphy's songs. Since the fans did not cause a ruckus and Murphy did not have any objections, they might as well let the fans continue to support Murphy and Muziang as a couple. People in the entertainment industry did not think that a couple would necessarily have any connection to a real relationship. This was just another way to create hype. Since the fans were happy, then let them play and create hype for free. Why not? When Murphy called Yang Yi, she even treated the news about Murphy as a joke and told Yang Yi about it. She even said happily, "Look, my fans are very supportive of us being together." Yang Yi was also very happy. These two fellows only treated this matter as a small prank. Not only did they not care at all, but they also felt that it was very amusing. Yang Yi couldn't go to Murphy's first concert in Beijing. He was going to participate in the parent-child spring outing organized by the kindergarten with Shi. He could only wait until the second concert was held in Shanghai next month. For the sake of this parent-child spring outing, he had even postponed his meeting with Jujie. "Papa, hurry up, hurry up. It's too late." The little girl wore pink sneakers and ran into the living room. Then, she turned around and called out anxiously a few times, as if she was on fire. "Don't worry. Daddy will drive. We won't be late. Here, put on another coat." Yang Yi was just rummaging through the clothes in the wardrobe when he turned around and couldn't see the little fellow. He had to take Shishi's windbreaker and chase after her. "Don't wear it. It's so hot." Shishi quickly reached out to block it. She pouted her small mouth and said reluctantly. She wore two undergarments, a red knitted wool dress, and a thick pair of trousers under the skirt. Although there was still some spring cold in Jiang City, such a dress was enough to keep her warm. "No, later, we will climb the mountain. It will be cold on the mountain. It will be colder than home and kindergarten, just like winter." Yang Yi explained to his daughter. He still had a down jacket in his backpack for the little girl. If she could persist in climbing to the top of the mountain, it might come in handy. She threw a little tantrum, but she was still very obedient. Seeing her father insist, she obediently stretched out her small arms and said with a little grievance, "Okay, but it won't be beautiful." It turned out that she was still a narcissistic little girl. Yang Yi smiled and patted Shishi's little head. He said, "Who said that beauty can only be reflected in pretty clothes? If you can grit your teeth and persist in climbing Ting Mountain today with me and climb to the top, then you will also be the most beautiful little girl. Hardworking, brave, and strong children are the most beautiful. Everyone will give you a thumbs up and tell you, 'Shishi, you are awesome.'" Really? Shishi really believed him. She looked at her father with sparkling eyes, looking forward to the future. Today, everyone gathered at the foot of Ting Mountain. Although Yang Yi and Shishi didn't set off early, he was still on time, neither early nor late. He belonged to the group in the middle. And behind him, not long after, Yang Yi saw Lance Hao Kai, dressed like a professional mountaineer, holding Lan Xian's hand as they alighted from the car. Yang Yi smiled and said, "Boss Lan, how come you have time to climb the mountain with Xian Air?" "Uncle Yang." Before Lance Hao Kai could answer, Lan Xian broke free of his hand and shouted loudly, throwing herself at him happily. "Hey Xian Air, how are you?" Yang Yi quickly bent down to catch her. Lan Xian and Yang Yi were getting closer and closer. The moment she came up, she planted a kiss on Yang Yi's cheek, making her father jealous. But she still had a purpose. After the kiss, she asked impatiently, "Uncle Yang, did you bring me anything good to eat?" Yes. Look, Uncle is carrying such a big bag. It's all to bring you something good to eat." Yang Yi smiled and said, "But, you have to climb the mountain first to eat." "Not now." At this time, Shishi was a little dissatisfied. The wind was strong in the mountain, and Yang Yi even put a windbreaker hat on her. She was like a little puppet, her arms stiff as she jumped to the side and called out in a crisp voice, "Xian Air, you haven't even said hello to me." "Shishi, I didn't forget you." Lan Xian got the answer she wanted, and stopped clinging to Yang Yi. She giggled as she came down and held Shishi's hand. The two girls gathered together again, and chattered away. At this time, Lance Hao Kai had a chance to interject. He coolly flipped his fisherman's hat and said, "How can I not participate in a parent-child activity? Today we are going to climb the 5 peaks of Pavilion Mountain. It's 600 meters high." Yang Yi smiled and looked at Lance Hao Kai. For Yang Yi, climbing the 600 meters high peak was as easy as eating and drinking. But for the fat Lance Hao Kai and these cute little kids, it could be said that it was not a small challenge. "Oh, you underestimate me?" Lance Hao Kai raised the hiking stick in his hand and proudly said, "See, this hiking stick is a prize I won in a mountaineering activity held by my company. Let me tell you, not to mention the 5 peaks, I have even climbed the main peak." Okay, I believe you. Later, we will take the children and climb up together, okay? Let them exercise." Yang Yi smiled and patted Lance Hao Kai's shoulder. Not long after, the other children and their parents also came. Today's parent-child activity was mountaineering, so basically, the parents came. Chen Shiyin was brought by her father, Chen Guoqiang, and Yang Luoqi was brought by her father, Yang Gua. They either carried light luggage or a backpack with water and clothes. Only Yang Yi carried a big hiking backpack. Who asked him to bring food for the children? When he came, almost all the children who had a bit of courage ran up to him and asked if he brought any delicious food. Even the little girl, Yang Luoqi, timidly asked, "Uncle Yang, can I have lunch with you and Shishi? I like your cooking." However, today among Shishi's little friends, there seemed to be one person missing. "Where's Nanjiaoyu?" Yang Yi found that the little boy who made him somewhat wary was not there, so he curiously asked. Chapter 406. That's right, where did Nanjiaoyu go? The little girls who were excitedly gathered together and whispered only now discovered this problem. Then Yang Yi saw that first Shishi, then Yang Luoqi, then Lan Xian, Chen Shiyin, one by one, raised their small heads and looked at him in confusion. What Yang Yi found strange was that Mr. Shen, who was in charge of the roll call, had said that everyone was here. So he went over to ask, and then came back hesitantly. "Ahem, we don't have to wait for Nanjiaoyu. He has something to do at home, so he can't come. Let's go." Yang Yi briefly explained to the little ones. Nan Xiaoyu ran away. He's a deserter. Chen Shiyun shouted. Xiaoyu said he would climb the mountain with us. Shishi pouted and said unhappily. Yang Yi wanted to say something, but stopped. The news that Mr. Shen had just told him was not as simple as that. Lance Haokai saw it. He raised his eyebrows and noticed that something was wrong. He came over and asked, "What happened?" Yang Yi lowered his voice and said, Nanian suddenly had a cerebral infarction last night. He's still in the hospital. His whole family is in the hospital now. Yang Yi didn't want to tell the children this bad news. It would ruin their good mood today. Lance Haokai was shocked. He also lowered his voice and said, "No way? What's the situation now?" Lance Haokai had a good impression of Nan Yun. When they first met, it was at a party at Yang Yi's house. Nan Yun's grandfather was playing a classical song in front of the piano. Although he was a little old, he looked very energetic. How could he suddenly have a cerebral infarction? Fortunately, Mr. Shen said that he has been rescued and regained consciousness, but Yang Yi sighed. You just haven't recovered yet, right? Lance Haokai seemed to understand the situation very well. He shook his head and said, "It's normal. If he's conscious, it means that he has a mild cerebral infarction. If he doesn't wake up for a long time, it will be really troublesome. But even if it's mild, he'll have to lie in bed for 10 days to half a month. He might not be able to recover completely. It depends on his luck." Yang Yi looked at him in surprise. Lance Haokai sighed. You think it's amazing that I know so much, right? Xian Air's grandfather passed away because of cerebral infarction. Yang Yi understood. He gently patted Lance Haokai's shoulder. Lance Haokai smiled. Don't worry, it's been many years. We'll talk about Nan Yun's situation after we finish climbing the mountain. Tonight, if there's nothing else, let's go visit him together. What do you think? I think it's okay. Yang Yi nodded. Nan Xiaoyu's father's experience was put aside for the time being. The activity began. Yang Yi led the little ones along the repaired mountain stairs. Ignorance was bliss. The little ones didn't know what happened to their friends' families yet. They were still very happy, chattering while climbing the mountain. At the beginning, they were still full of energy. I've been here with my dad. Chen Shiyun trotted to the front and wanted to walk backward, but she was stopped by her father. She had to return to the team with a pout. I've been here with my papa too. We even made barbecue. Shishi remembered the scene last year, and she happily shared it with her friends. My mom also went, and then we played in the river. Ahem, it's just a stream. If it's a big river, Dad can't let you go into the water. Yang Yi, who was walking behind, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Shishi blinked her big cute eyes, glanced at her father, and then turned her head to look at her friends. But I want to eat barbecue. Lan Xian, who had climbed the mountain for a while, was already a little out of breath, but she still shouted excitedly. I want to eat barbecue too. Chen Shiyun also shouted. Not today. Uncle didn't bring barbecue tools today, only some snacks for you. Yang Yi told them a cruel reality. Ah, no barbecue? Lan Xian was disappointed. My papa made a delicious cake. Xian Air, don't be sad. It's really delicious. Shishi considerately held Lan Xian's hand and comforted her. I still want to eat barbecue. Chen Shiyun continued to shout. Her temper was even worse than Lan Xian's. Chen Shiyun, you can't. Your Uncle Yang said no, so he didn't. You're still shouting. You're causing trouble. Chen Guoqiang glared and scolded. I want to eat barbecue. However, Chen Shiyun was stubborn. She pouted and shouted at her father, then turned her head angrily. You. Chen Guoqiang was furious. He was a boxing coach, so he was used to the feeling of being straightforward on the boxing stage. How could he hold back his anger? If they were not outside, he would have picked up his disobedient daughter and beat her. Fortunately, Yang Yi stopped him and said with a smile, Brother Chen, don't worry. That's not causing trouble. Besides, the child is not sensible. You have to reason with her slowly. Shiyun, it's not that Uncle doesn't want to make barbecue for you today, but it's really inconvenient. You see, we're going to climb the mountain. The wind is so strong that we can't make a fire and barbecue, right? Yang Yi patiently explained to Chen Shiyin. Chen Shiyin was respected. Although the little girl still could not understand the logic, her mood was much better, and she did not have the same stubborn expression as before. However, perhaps she was still angry about her father's scolding, so she still looked unhappy. My daughter is still the best. Obedient and sensible. Yang Yi looked at Shi, who was looking at her friends worriedly, and thought to himself. However, Lan Kai waved his hand generously and said, "What's the big deal about barbecue? We'll climb the mountain, and after we go down, Uncle will take you to eat barbecue in a big hotel." Wow! Barbecue in a big hotel. All of a sudden, the four girls cried out in surprise. Chen Shiyin forgot to be angry with her father, and even Cici jumped around the fat uncle happily with her friends. Lan Kai, a billionaire who was always calm in the face of trouble, laughed happily like a child at this moment. He even looked at Yang Yi proudly, as if to say, "Look, I'm more popular than you." Yang Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry. He wanted to say, Here, except for my daughter, I'll give you everything." However, it was too early for them to be happy. Climbing the mountain was not that easy. After walking for a few kilometers, not only the children, but even the adults began to pant, let alone talk. Yang Yi and Chen Guoqiang were fine. Both of them had trained before, so their physical fitness was very good, and they were not out of breath. However, Yang Guo was a university professor, and he did not exercise much. He and Lan Kai were both out of breath, and they were so tired that their foreheads were sweating. The higher the altitude, the colder it was. The little ones couldn't take it anymore. Yang Yi had already picked up the delicate Yang Luoqi 20 minutes ago. The other three little ones were still holding on. Shi and Chen Shiyin's physiques were better. Although they were out of breath, they should be able to continue climbing. However, Lan Xian could not. Her chubby legs were trembling. If it was not for Shi holding her hand and shouting, "Come on, Xian air," the chubby girl probably would not be able to climb anymore. Everyone take a break. Drink some water and eat some fruits to replenish your nutrition. We will continue climbing later. Fortunately, at this time, Mr. Shun organized everyone to take a break. Lan Kai was so tired that he wanted to sit down directly. Fortunately, Yang Yi's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He reached out and supported him. "You are so tired, you can't sit down. Walk slowly." Xiaoyang, how far is it?" Lan Kai asked out of breath. The stone steps spiraling up the mountain, although not steep, seemed to be impossible to climb. The mountain road in front of them turned again, and it seemed that there was no end to it. They could not see the top of the mountain because the dense forest and trees blocked their vision. It was worth praising that Jiangqing City had invested a lot of money in the Pavilion Mountain scenic area. Along the hillside, not only were there strong fences built on the edge, but there were also solid barbed wire nailed around the vegetation on the side of the mountain to prevent small-scale landslides or rolling stones from injuring people. The geological phenomenon of large-scale landslides was rare in Pavilion Mountain. If it really happened, no preventive measures could stop it. Because of such perfect construction measures, the several peaks of the Pavilion Mountain scenic area that had been opened to the public attracted many mountaineers and tourists. There were many people on weekdays, but today was the weekend, so there were even more people climbing the mountain. Therefore, not only the parents and children of the Springfield Kindergarten's parent-child activity, but also many people climbed to the top of the mountain. A healthy man in his 40s who looked like he often climbed mountains passed by. When he heard Lan Kai's question, he smiled and pointed at the fence saying, "There's still about 2 kilometers to go. You've only climbed less than 400 meters. The last 200 meters are the hardest." At this time, Yang Yi and the others finally noticed that, while they were chatting and laughing, they did not notice that there was a pillar at every distance of the fence. There were words carved on the pillar, indicating the distance and height needed to complete the climb. It's still so far? Lan Kai's legs turned to jelly. Fortunately, Yang Yi supported him. In order to support him, Yang Yi even put Yang Luoqi down. "Uncle Lan, do you want some water?" She was sucking on the straw of the water bottle that her father had taken out from his backpack. Seeing Lan Xian's father in such a sorry state, The little girl ran over obediently and handed over her own water bottle. Chapter 407. Lan Hao Kai was a little confused at first, and then he was a little touched. He turned his head to look for his daughter. The chubby girl was also drinking water. She was also tired, but her eyes were still very energetic. After drinking the water, her little face was red, just like little apple. Exionaire, look, she is so sensible and caring. You don't even know how to share a sip of water with daddy. Lan Hao Kai complained as he panted. She also turned her head to look at Lan Xian. She raised her little hand, not knowing what to do. She, drink it yourself. Uncle has some too. Lan Hao Kai also thought of Shi at this time. He nodded at Shi lovingly and smiled slightly. Then I'll give it to you too. Lan Xian didn't feel that there was anything to complain about drinking water, so she didn't care. She walked over graciously and handed her water bottle to her father. Her tone seemed to be saying, "It's not a big deal. Here you go." Lan Hao Kai didn't care. He was very touched. He picked it up and pretended to drink a few mouthfuls. In fact, he covered his mouth with his hand and didn't drink at all. He even smacked his dry lips inside. The water shared by my daughter is still the best. Yang Yi, who was next to him, couldn't help but laugh. However, he was relieved when he saw that Lan Hao Kai didn't collapse. He took off his hiking bag and began to dig out delicious food. There were snacks that Shi mentioned before: fruits, washed cherries, strawberries, and cut apple and starfruit. There were many people, and the children all liked his cooking, so Yang Yi really prepared a lot. After he finished digging, the long hiking bag suddenly deflated and became much lighter. Only a few bottles of water and Shishi's clothes were left. Under his beckoning, all the little ones in the middle class, as well as their parents, gathered around. However, to Yang Yi's surprise, the children weren't very interested in the snacks they had been looking forward to for a long time. Instead, they were enthusiastic about the juicy, red cherries and strawberries that looked very attractive. Maybe they were too tired? The sweet snacks didn't suit their taste. In order to support them, the adults helped to eliminate the remaining snacks, and almost all the fruits were eaten by the children. At first, Lan Xian was a little hesitant. Facing the delicious food, she licked her lips and looked at Yang Yi. "Uncle Yang, but I haven't climbed up the mountain yet." She was already eating a cherry in her left hand and a star fruit in her right hand, but when she heard Lan Xian's words, she quickly put the star fruit back. However, the cherry stuffed into her mouth was still chewing, and she muttered, "Yes, I haven't climbed up the mountain yet, I can't eat it." Young Luochi, who was already unable to climb, was holding a beautiful strawberry happily and looking at it carefully. She looked at the strawberry in her hand with some reluctance and said sadly, "But I want to eat." Yang Yi looked at Lan Xian, who was drooling in amusement. He rubbed her little head and said to the children, "Eat it, it's okay. Uncle was just joking before. You guys are already very good to be able to persevere until here. After eating, let's continue climbing and see if we can persevere until we reach the top." At this moment, Lan Xian happily reached for the snacks she wanted to eat, and Yang Luochi also smiled. As for Chen Shiyin, the little girl had already begun to eat. She almost buried her head in it, so how could she notice? She spat out the cherry core into the garbage bag held by her father. She raised her little head, and her little face, which was wrapped in a windbreaker, showed an eager expression. "Papa, Papa, I want to climb to the top of the mountain. I'm the best." Yang Yi forgot what he had said to his daughter before. He just smiled and patted her head, saying softly, "Yes, you have to do it." After a long period of rest and recuperation, the adults and children regained some of their strength and began to charge towards the higher peaks. Just like before, in the beginning everyone was still talking and laughing, but before long, the little strength stored during the rest gradually disappeared, and only the sound of breathing was left in the team. After walking for a few hundred meters on the mountain road, there were no more steps, and the children began to be unable to support themselves. Yang Luochi asked Yang Gua to carry her. She was so tired that she lay on her father's back in a daze. Chen Guoqiang also came over to tease the little girl. Yang Yi picked up Lan Xian, who was also unable to walk, and helped Lance Hao Kai carry his professional mountaineering equipment. "Give me some water, I can't do it." Lance Hao Kai gasped, took the water from Yang Yi's hand, drank it and complained, "I'm old. I haven't been mountaineering for a few years and I can't climb anymore." Okay, don't try to be brave. Take it easy." Yang Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, "If you really can't do it, you and Exiner can wait for us here. We'll come down from the mountain and go back together." "No, how can you say no?" Lance Hao Kai waved his hand, panting, and looked at Lon Xian and said, "Exiner, Daddy will show you today that Daddy is still very strong." She was also panting, exhausted, but the little girl seemed to be infected by Uncle Lan's spirit. Her little face was tense, and her will was very strong. "Daddy." Lon Xian didn't know what to say. She was so tired that she could only snuggle in Uncle Yang Yi's arms, but seeing that her daddy had never shown such a strong expression, she pursed her lips and watched closely. In order to take care of Lance Hao Kai, Yang Yi's team slowed down. However, it was better to slow down than to stop. Along the way, there were still many parents who couldn't climb with their children. Not everyone could be like Yang Yi, who could carry a 4- or 5-year-old child and bravely climb to the peak. For example, Yang Gua and Yang Luoqi could only regretfully stop and follow teacher Kai to meet up with the team that had stopped. Yang Yi carried the chubby girl Lon Xian with one hand, and the fat man Lance Hao Kai with the other. He was actually the most tired, but Chen Guoqiang couldn't help him because he also had to carry Chen Shiyun up the mountain. Chen Shiyun's stamina was good, but she couldn't hold on anymore. The father and daughter who were still at loggerheads just now seemed to have made up. Chen Shiyun hugged her daddy's neck tightly, and heard her daddy's heavy breathing in front of her. She lay on her daddy's back, and her tired eyes showed her attachment. Perhaps they didn't know how to express their feelings, but at this moment, they should be able to feel the deep love between father and daughter, right? Lance Hao Kai's weight was getting heavier and heavier, but he still gritted his teeth and persevered. Yang Yi couldn't take it anymore. Even with his stamina, he began to pant heavily. In order to relieve his fatigue, Yang Yi said to Shishi while panting, "Shishi, Daddy will teach you a sentence today, okay?" Shishi didn't have the strength to speak. She grabbed her daddy's trousers and trudged with difficulty. She only raised her head and glanced at her daddy. Better_late_than_never. Yang Yi looked ahead and said word by word. "It means that it's better to be late than never. Doing anything is the same, climbing a mountain is the same. Since you've chosen to do it, even if you're slow, you have to work hard to complete it. Climb to the top, even if it takes a long, long time. Because we're at the top of the mountain. We can always see further and more beautiful scenery than others who haven't climbed to the top. Let me give you another example, the story that Daddy told you before, the tortoise and the rabbit race. Although the little tortoise climbed slowly, he still finished the race in the end. But what about the little rabbit? She gave up halfway and lost the race." He didn't know if Shishi understood, but Yang Yi was gratified to see his daughter's unswerving determination on her tired little face. Don't say give up." Lance Hao Kai also tried his best to persevere, but miraculously, he could still squeeze out a few words. "Yes. Come on." Yang Yi roared to encourage them. Looking at the top of the mountain in front of them, he shouted, "Hold on a little longer, look, we're almost there." Wasn't it just a small mountain of more than 600 meters? These guys actually found it as difficult as climbing Mount Everest. If this news spread out, they would really laugh their heads off. But in the end, Yang Yi, who was watching the two fatties climb to the top of the mountain, actually felt full of pride. In fact, it was indeed something to be proud of. There weren't many families who could climb to the top of the mountain, let alone children. The other people on the observation deck were all adult citizens who often came here to exercise. Yang Yi first settled Lance Hao Kai down and sat down on the observation deck chair next to him to rest. Then, he carried the little girl who was so tired that she couldn't even carry her father, walked to the edge of the observation deck, and pointed at the winding mountain path and the dense forest below. "Shishi, look, these are the mountain paths that you just conquered. Look over here, isn't the scenery particularly good?" Yang Yi happily said to his daughter. The little girl looked at such a beautiful mountaintop scenery, and her tired little eyes were a little blurred. But at this time, she was a little speechless. Being carried by her father, she could only look at her achievements and the scenery that she deserved. Yang Yi couldn't tell how her heart was fluctuating. After drinking some water, she, who recovered her spirit, looked at her father pitifully and said in a weak voice, "Papa, I'm great, aren't I?" Yang Yi was moved. He pressed his forehead against his daughter's forehead and said softly, "Today, I didn't help you much because I took care of Xian and her father, but I really didn't expect that you could climb up with your own efforts. Papa can tell you, you're the best." The little girl's tired little face finally overflowed with a happy smile at this moment. Chapter 408. The scenery at the top of the mountain was very beautiful. Lan Zhaokai, who had recovered, also took his daughter to take a look. Looking into the distance, he patted his daughter's back and smiled gently. "How was it? Did it feel good to climb to the top of the mountain?" "Dad, I didn't climb up like she. Uncle Yang carried me up." Lan Xian was very honest and said with a pout. "But you worked very hard before. With your current ability, you can't climb such a high mountain. However, you have to remember how you feel now. In the future, just like today, don't give up easily. You like success and don't like failure, right?" Lan Zhaokai instilled chicken soup for his daughter. After a while, they began to descend the mountain. It was much easier to descend the mountain. It took less than half an hour to meet up with the rest of the team. Yang Yi and the others arrived at the foot of the mountain. Lan Zhaokai didn't forget his promise. He invited Lan Xian's friends and their father to the hotel for a barbecue. At noon, in the hotel's large private room, the four tired children finished eating the barbecue they had been looking forward to for a long time. Then they lay down on the large sofa and took an afternoon nap. "She's really tired. Xian is picky about her bed." She fell asleep as soon as she laid down. Lan Zhaokai went over and covered his daughter with a coat before returning to the dining table. The adults drank tea and chatted. Because they were going to visit Nan Zhaoyu's father in the afternoon, Yang Yi also told them about Nanny Yun's condition. "That's why people should work out and exercise more when they're young. Old Nan seems to be a calligrapher, right? One look at his body and you can tell he's a weak scholar. He never exercises. When he gets older, he'll suffer from all kinds of illnesses." Chen Guochang was the boxing coach of the fitness center. He had the most right to speak about this. "Guochang, tell me, what kind of exercise should I do when I'm so fat?" "Boxing?" Lan Zhaokai asked with great interest. In the afternoon, the little ones got up. After a good night's sleep, they were alive and kicking again. However, Shishi's calves were sore and unbearable due to overexertion. She asked her father to massage her for a while before she could walk slowly. In the car, Yang Yi told Shishi the reason why Nan Zhaoyu did not come today. "Uncle Nan is sick?" The little girl was a little surprised, but it was obvious that she did not realize the severity of Uncle Nan's illness. Perhaps, in her worldview, being sick was just like catching a cold. It would be uncomfortable, but it was not a big deal. "Yeah, so we're going to visit him together. You have to comfort Nan Zhaoyu and tell him, 'Zhaoyu, don't be afraid. Your father will get better,'" Yang Yi told his daughter as he drove. "All right." Shishi nodded obediently. However, when they arrived at the hospital, through the glass window, Shishi realized that something was wrong when she saw Nanian sleeping on the ICU bed with a respirator mask on his nose. He needs to continue to be observed now. He woke up in the early morning. The doctor said that this is a good sign, and the damage to the brain will be relatively small, but he still can't speak now. Nan Zhaoyu's mother was actually very strong. Her eyes were red, and she tried hard to hold back her tears as she introduced him to Yang Yi and the others who came to visit. "It doesn't matter. Didn't the doctor say that he will get better?" Yang Yi was used to seeing life and death, but it was also the first time he encountered the emotions of ordinary people when facing the death of their loved ones. He could not help but sigh secretly and comfort her in a low voice. "Nan family's eldest sister-in-law. I know that old Nan is the pillar of your family. If there are any difficulties at home now, you can just tell me. After all, Nan Zhaoyu and our family's Xian heir, are very good friends and classmates. If there is anything I can help, I will definitely help. Lan Zhoukai patted his chest and said, thank you Xionaire's father. Nan Zhaoyu's mother wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and said emotionally, in fact, there is no difficulty at home. Zhaoyu's father also saved some money before. Now we don't think about anything. We just want him to recover as soon as possible. Zhaoyu can't live without a father. Don't say that. Teacher Nan will definitely recover. I believe in him. Heaven helps the worthy. Yanghua said. The adults were talking, and the children were also surrounding Nan Zhaoyu. Perhaps feeling that the atmosphere was not right and seeing the sad expressions of the children. Even the loud Lan Xian did not dare to speak loudly. She asked in a low voice, Zhaoyu, what happened to your father? She looked at Nan Zhaoyu, who lowered his head and was very sad. She considerately held his hand. My father is sick. Nan Zhaoyu sobbed, then raised his teary eyes and looked at Xi. I'm so scared. Yesterday he almost died. Xi looked at Nan Zhaoyu with some surprise. How could he die? Yang Luoqi looked at Nan Zhaoyu with fear and asked in a low voice. Chen Shiyun next to her also nodded vigorously. She and the other children could not think of such a possibility. Regarding the concept of death, they have watched so many cartoons, so they know that if a person dies, they will never come back, just like a monster. That's right. He suddenly fell down, and then didn't say anything. Mom and I are so scared. Nan Zhaoyu sobbed and said. Cici shook her friend's hand sadly and said, Zhaoyu, don't cry. Your papa won't die. My papa said he will get better. Really? Nan Zhaoyu sniffled, rubbed his eyes and asked. Yes. My father said so. Xi nodded vigorously. In Xi's mind, her father is more powerful than any god. What he said would naturally come true. Chen Shiyun did not like this gloomy atmosphere. She said, Zhaoyu, do you know? I thought you were a deserter, but your father is sick, so I forgive you. However, we are going to climb a very, very high mountain today. The topic was slightly changed by Chen Shiyun, so Lan Xian asked, Zhaoyu, will you go to kindergarten? Nan Zhaoyu pursed his lips and nodded. Great. Your father will get better. Zhaoyu, don't cry. Xi was happy for her little friend, but she felt that something was wrong, so she quickly comforted her. However, the little girl did not know what to say, so she could only repeat it. After visiting Nan Zhaoyu, Yang Yi took his daughter home. However, Xi had been showing a sullen look. She was not as happy as she was when climbing and going down the mountain. Yang Yi thought that she was sad because of Nan Zhaoyu's father's experience, so he kept making her happy. Hey, by the way, Xi, your mother is going to have a concert today. In the evening, call your mother and ask her. Mom, is it fun to sing for so many people? Yang Yi said to Xi with a smile as he prepared dinner. However, the little girl just pouted and nodded sullenly without saying a word. What's wrong? Yang Yi was a little confused. He turned around, rubbed the little girl's head and said, Didn't I tell you that Nan Zhaoyu's father will get better? So don't be sad for Nan Zhaoyu. And don't worry too much. Why are you still sad? The little girl felt the warmth of her father's big hand, and suddenly, her suppressed emotions could not help but burst out. She hugged her father's leg and cried, Papa, I don't want you to die suddenly. Hey, silly, what are you talking about? Yang Yi was a little confused by the little girl's crying, but he did not need to wait for Xi's explanation, and soon understood the whole story. Yang Yi turned off the stove, felt funny and moved. He squatted down, held the little girl in his arms, and kissed her little face dotingly. Papa won't die suddenly, you little fool. Nan Zhaoyu's father suddenly fell ill because he was old. But your father is still very young. He won't get sick. Yang Yi explained. The little girl didn't listen to his explanation. She hugged her father's neck tightly and raised her little face. Her little pink mouth twitched as she sobbed. I don't want you to die. Don't die, okay? Yang Yi's heart was touched. At this moment he felt his daughter's deep dependence, but he was moved, but he was also very helpless. He could only softly comfort her. Papa won't die. Papa will accompany you, grow up slowly, and then accompany her, and walk her down the red carpet of the wedding? Then watch her have her own marriage and happiness. and then watch her grow old slowly after his grandson or granddaughter is born. For some reason, Yang Yi's nose was a little sour at the thought of these scenes. No way. Yang Yi did not want to think about such a long time ago. Furthermore, don't talk about marriage, damn it. His daughter was still young. If anyone dared to have any ideas about her, Yang Yi swore on his little guai that he would definitely break their legs. No, breaking their legs was too light a punishment. Throw them into the Grand Canal to feed the fishes. Anyway, such a character would never appear. At this moment, Shishi interrupted Yang Yi's thoughts. Pinky promise. Shishi's eyes were blurred with tears, and she pouted her little mouth, stretched out her little finger. You can't die suddenly. Yang Yi was stunned for a moment, then smiled happily. He stretched out his little finger and hooked his daughter's little finger. Okay, Pinky promise, Papa promises you. Chapter 409. While Yang Yi and his daughter were almost crying in each other's arms because of their non-existent imagination, Mo Fei, who was completely unaware of it, was already waiting for her own concert to begin in the backstage of the Beijing 2 Green Onions Stadium. Sis, you don't know it's full outside. Full. So many people. Mo Shaowan, who couldn't help but sneak out to take a look, came back and said excitedly to Murphy. As soon as she opened the door, the noise from outside came in. After closing the door, the lounge was quiet. Mo Fei said very calmly. Don't you already know? The tickets are sold out. It had been sold out long before the new year. This was Murphy's first concert after 6 years, so the tickets were very popular. It was said that after the new year, the VIP ticket price had been raised to nearly 10,000 yuan. Who knew if it was a trick played by the scalpers? But it seemed like the scalpers had already made a lot of money. Hey sis, why aren't you excited? I'm so excited. Mo Shaowan jumped up and down, as if she was the one who was going to go on stage. Excited, but not as excited as you think. Murphy smiled and said calmly, I've been in the industry for more than 10 years and have held concerts before. There's no need to be so excited like a newcomer. Murphy. After a while, amidst the cheers of the fans, Murphy finally took the elevator and slowly appeared on stage. Wearing a white silk dress, like the gowns of ancient Greek women, Murphy had her hair braided in a bohemian style. She had an exotic wild beauty, but this kind of beauty, in contrast to her quiet posture, was so sacred that it made people feel like they could only admire her from afar. Seeing Murphy, the fans burst into cheers like a tsunami. However, Murphy raised the microphone and didn't say anything. Instead, she sang a line. Write me a letter and tell me what color the sea is today. Mo Fei was indeed worthy of being called Mo Fei. It was just a line without any accompaniment, but she could also sing it with an accompaniment. The fans were stunned for a moment and cheered in surprise. Listen to the sea. Murphy had already unleashed her ultimate move at the start of the match. At this time, the accompaniment of the band sounded, and Murphy continued to sing. When Murphy's voice was at its best, the fans present were mesmerized by the high-pitched song, Listen to the Sea. Thank you everyone. Thank you for coming to my concert this weekend. Murphy didn't know how to say anything emotional. All she could do was use her most sincere words to thank her fans. But now, after listening to her performance of Listen to the Sea, the passionate fans would respond enthusiastically no matter what Murphy said. Applause and cheers once again flooded in. Murphy, welcome back. Sitting in the front row of the VIP seats was a loyal fan in his 30s or 40s. He waved the sign in his hand excitedly like a young man, and even shouted loudly. Murphy vaguely heard it. She was so grateful that tears welled up in her eyes. After calming herself down, she said, Thank you for your support. Actually, when I made my comeback, I still encountered a big failure. It was only because of all of you that I had the courage to continue to persevere in my dream. The original dream. The fans in the audience wanted to help Murphy shout the name of the next song. No, the song I want to sing next represents my hesitation and confusion at that time. In the face of overwhelming doubts, I was always worried that I would lose all of you. Fortunately, a person magically appeared. Before Murphy finished speaking, The fans couldn't wait to help her say the name of that person. Muziang, Muziang. Thank you, Muziang. He wrote so many songs for me, and one of them, I want to sing for all of you. Murphy looked forward gratefully and said word by word, "Love me, don't go." This song still attracted a lot of cheers. Even if it was a little inconspicuous compared to the other songs, the quality of the entire album was very high. Even this song was in the hands of a considerable number of people. The languid and romantic saxophone sounded. The graceful melody caused the fans in the audience to sway. At this time, I'm still the same. The loneliness of the night makes people sad. Murphy's clean voice singing this song had a very unique charm. It made people listen to it as if they had met an innocent girl in a bar. Her sad frown always made people pity and love her. I don't have news of you, because I'm thinking of you. When Mo Fei said the last sentence, she held the microphone and closed her eyes. She said it in an ordinary tone, but it gave people a playful feeling. If you love me, don't go. If you say you don't love me. With Mo Fei's singing skills, it was very easy for her to control this song. It was just a short and long note, but the fans were all mesmerized by it. This song wasn't special, but with Murphy's words just now, the fans finally understood the emotions Murphy wanted to express. The reluctance and sadness permeated their hearts through the song. After the song, Murphy was still standing there. Without waiting for her to ask, the fans couldn't wait to shout, "I won't leave you. Murphy, we love you to the end. Come on, Murphy." Of course, the sad mood was quickly brushed away. Murphy then used First Dream and other songs to reignite the atmosphere. Murphy didn't invite any warm-up singers for this concert. She relied on her strong foundation and carried on the concert for nearly 3 hours. Even if there was only a short break for a few minutes to change clothes in the middle, even if she had to drink water on the stage in the middle, even if she sang the song, In My Voice, Across the Sea to See You, and the encore Listen to the Sea, Mo Fei still sang it perfectly. Murphy's fans were touched by her hard work. After the concert ended, the reporters waiting outside caught a few fans and asked them their thoughts. It was definitely worth it. Murphy's live performance was even better than listening to CDs. Even Eason praised her singing. The whole concert was a feast for the ears. Our Murphy may be beautiful, but she's different from those flirtatious B*****s out there. Her singing is super good. You'll know when you hear it. The fans gave her very high praise. With such a good reputation, Mo Fei's other concerts in the future would probably be full of people. Leaving Murphy aside, the next day, Yang Yi asked Yang Huan to take care of Shishi. He drove alone to the usual place, the remote and old warehouse, to meet Zhu Jie. Although Zhu Jie seemed to be very obedient, Yang Yi recently found that Zhu Jie's phone had changed owners and was now being used by his manager. He probably didn't want to use it anymore because the battery wasn't working well. After discovering this, Yang Yi hesitated for a while. He didn't turn off the eavesdropping device. Instead, he set the eavesdropping device to an automatic record. And then the record would be automatically deleted after a few days to keep a time-limited record. Basically, he wouldn't listen to it anymore, but he still had a backup plan in case he needed it in the future. Yang Yi couldn't eavesdrop on Zhu Jie, so he was a little worried that this guy would repeat himself. So before meeting Zhu Jie, Yang Yi was very cautious and parked his car far away. Then he sneaked over to make sure that Zhu Jie didn't cause any trouble. Then he sneaked out and drove his car back. Chapter 410. Zhu Jie was really looking forward to meeting Yang Yi. It was rare that he didn't procrastinate and arrived at the abandoned warehouse half an hour earlier. Yang Yi's late, of course, made Zhu Jie a little worried. When he saw Yang Yi, he couldn't help but complain. "Hey, Boss Muziang, why are you so late? I thought you were going to stand me up. I called you here today to ask you for a favor." Yang Yi didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Zhu Jie's spirit was lifted and he smiled. "What favor? Just tell me, I'll make sure you're satisfied." Last time, Muziang said that it would depend on his performance. This was his chance to show off. "Murphy won't renew her contract with Tianmei," Yang Yi said concisely. "What?" Zhu Jie was a little dumbfounded. Yang Yi glanced at him and didn't continue to say anything, but his eyes told him. Yes, you didn't hear wrong. Sister Murphy won't renew her contract with Tian Mei. This is a big deal. Zhu Jie said, flabbergasted. Yes, she's going to open a studio with me, so she can't renew her contract with Tian Mei. Yang Yi explained a little, and then directly put forward his request. Aren't you Niu Meiling's nephew? You're also a shareholder of Tian Mei. I want you to help me mediate between us, and let Niu Meiling accept Murphy's departure calmly. Everyone will part on good terms. Zhu Jie couldn't help but complain. But Sister Murphy isn't a small star like Zhen Zhen. She's the company's big sister. She's so famous. If she leaves, my aunt will definitely flip out. How can she accept it calmly? It's because it's troublesome that I want to ask you for help. Yang Yi used the word please. Yang Yi looked at Zhu Jie's eyes, which made Zhu Jie feel like he was saying, can you do it? Zhu Jie seemed to be encouraged. He gritted his teeth and said, okay, I'll give it a try. But why did Sister Murphy leave? Isn't the weather beautiful? However, after asking this question, Zhu Jie slapped himself on the head. He smiled and said, I forgot that you guys are together. You can write songs for Sister Murphy, so Sister Murphy doesn't have to worry about anything else. Freedom points are pretty good too. Yang Yi gently nodded and said, Murphy not renewing her contract is indeed a big loss for Tian Mei, but we still have you, right? You're also very popular. After Murphy leaves, the resources that were originally given to her will be given to you. You might be able to become an A-list singer. Zhu Jie's eyes lit up when he heard this. He felt that what Yang Yi said made sense. Besides, you've helped me. If we can really part on good terms and maintain a good relationship, I might help you in the future. Yang Yi smiled and said, I've taken away your company's #1 sister. It's not impossible to train another #1 brother for your company. You're saying I'm a #1 brother? Zhu Jie's breathing was a little rapid. Of course, the most direct example is the song I wrote for you, Mistress. Although this song is very controversial, didn't it still make you popular? If Murphy and Tian Mei broke up and parted on bad terms, then I won't be happy if I write songs for you, right? If Murphy and Sister Ling parted on good terms, I won't have any grudges if I write songs for you. Yang Yi added fuel to the fire. Are you really going to write songs for me? Zhu Jie thought about how Yang Yi used 12 songs to push Murphy into a top singer and couldn't help but feel a little itchy. Yang Yi nodded. 2 songs. If this matter is done well, I'll write 2 songs for you. If it's not done well, then there's nothing I can do. Zhu Jie's head started to spin. When it came to some crooked ideas, his IQ started to come online again. I can tell my dad and let him discuss it with my aunt. My aunt won't not listen to my dad. Then, like you said, 1 less Murphy and 1 more Zhu Jie. Since they're both big stars, our Tian Mei won't lose too much. Well, anyway, Sister Murphy's departure can't be changed. I think my aunt will weigh the pros and cons and part on good terms with Sister Murphy. The more he thought about it, the more Zhu Jie felt that this matter was possible. He punched his palm and was abnormally excited. Then it depends on your performance. Yang Yi was relieved. After he finished speaking, he prepared to leave. Hey, Boss Muziang, don't be in a hurry to leave. Can you tell me what the 2 songs you're going to write for me are? Zhu Jie was itching and couldn't help but ask. Looking at his mischievous smile, Yang Yi actually wanted to give him a punch. To put it bluntly, he was asking for a beating. However, this kid was still a bit interesting. He was the most successful instigation he had ever done. Since he wanted to let him help him, Yang Yi also attached importance to Zhu Jie. How could it be possible to want the horse to be good and not eat grass? Yang Yi decided to give Zhu Jie a thought and urge him to help him. I can't give you 2 songs at once. I'll sing 1 song for you first. Then, when you're done, I'll give you the 2nd song. Of course, if you don't do it well and you take my song, don't blame me for being rude to you. Yang Yi warned him seriously. Zhu Jie shivered and quickly nodded. The song I'm going to sing for you is called How Lucky. Yang Yi's expression softened and he said calmly. Then, he sang the song for Zhu Jie. How lucky, to meet you at my most beautiful age. No regrets, holding you tight, using all my strength, not letting happiness escape. Although there was no accompaniment, Yang Yi's excellent singing was still able to perform the song very well. His voice was light, bright, warm, and sweet. It was all reflected in his voice. Of course, this song was similar to Mistress. The rest was plain, but at the climax, the melody and lyrics were brainwashing. However, it had a better reputation than Mistress. After all, the lyrics didn't make people feel awkward. However, after Yang Yi finished singing, Zhu Jie was a bit hesitant. Yang Yi raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's wrong? This song isn't good? You don't like it?" He had specially chosen this song, because this song didn't have high requirements for singing, so he had taken care of Zhu Jie. Zhu Jie stuttered and said, "Boss Mu Xiang, I didn't mean it that way. This song of yours is quite nice, but it doesn't quite suit me. After I sang Mistress, I was called the little prince of sad love songs, right? This song is too serious, and it doesn't sound right when I sing it. Can you change it to a song like Mistress?" Zhu Jie looked at Yang Yi carefully and asked boldly, "Change a song? Only a thick-skinned guy like Zhu Jie would say something like that. And it has to be the same genre as Mistress?" Yang Yi was about to faint. He had specially made a love song for Zhu Jie to change his image. Although Yang Yi didn't feel bad that he had tricked Zhu Jie, now that Zhu Jie was considered his henchman, Yang Yi felt that he should treat him well. In the end, this guy didn't appreciate it and got addicted to singing such a torturous song like Mistress? "You really want a song like Mistress?" Yang Yi couldn't help but ask again. Yes. This kind of song is good. Other people don't know how to sing it, but everyone wants to hear it, so they have to invite me to sing it. Then the more controversial it is, the easier it is for me to become popular." Zhu Jie laughed mischievously. After Du Luan had nagged him for a few months, he was finally enlightened. Yang Yi was speechless. However, the road was chosen by others, so he said calmly, "All right, pretend that you didn't hear the song just now. I'll sing another one for you." Chapter 411. Yang Yi didn't like weird songs in his previous life. He wouldn't listen to songs like Little Apple a second time after listening to them once. But he had transmigrated, so his memory was like a hard drive that could be read. Songs that he had listened to once before were copied into his mind. Therefore, Yang Yi didn't even need to think and opened his mouth to sing. This isn't a coincidence, nor is it a wish. This is God's arrangement for our reunion. Don't believe in tears, don't believe in change, but firmly believe in each other's feelings. In his previous life, if Yang Yi sang the first few lines, 8 out of 10 people in the audience would be able to recognize the name of the song. However, this was Zhu Jie's first time listening to it. The first few lines confused him. He didn't do well in primary school, so he couldn't understand the meaning of the song. Why does it sound so weird? It sounds like a positive song, but it doesn't seem like it? Zhu Jie muttered in his heart. I want to go back to our first love. I want to see your smiling face again." Zhu Jie understood this time. This was a sad love song, and it seemed to be sung for his first love. He was suddenly energized. Although he couldn't remember who his first love was, this song seemed to be quite easy to sing, and it was also quite nice. But then Yang Yi suddenly raised his voice. "That night you didn't reject me. That night, I hurt you." Zhu Jie's eyes widened. He was shocked by the straightforward lyrics. If he was drinking water, he would definitely spit it out. "That night, your face was full of tears. That night you got drunk for me." Zhu Jie couldn't be more familiar with the plot described in the lyrics. Wasn't it that one night of love? Yang Yi hadn't finished singing the first verse, but Zhu Jie felt that he had been brainwashed by the lyrics of that night. But Zhu Jie has already mastered the essence of brainwashing songs. He knows how much damage the repeated lyrics have to the fans. Thinking of himself singing this song on the stage, thinking of the fans shaking the light sticks excitedly below the stage, Zhu Jie can't help but have his eyes lit up and his nostrils flared with excitement. That night, I raised my wine glass. That night, my heart was broken. After Yang Yi sang the first verse, he couldn't sing anymore. To him, this brainless slobber song was simply poison. He didn't want to sing it a second time. "What do you think of this song?" Yang Yi stopped and asked Jujie. He sang such a sad song, but his expression was very calm, as if he was not the one who sang it. Good, that's great. Jujie beamed with joy. I like this song. It's even better than Mistress. After all, singing Mistress made Jujie feel like he was being cheated on, but that night was different. That night, you didn't reject me. Jujie even hummed with an expression of fondness. It's really amazing that someone doesn't sing a good song, but insists on singing these divine songs. Yang Yi shook his head slightly in his heart. Yang Yi can't understand this kind of abnormal love, so he simply doesn't understand. Let him be. Yang Yi patted Jujie's shoulder gently and said encouragingly, help me solve this problem. There's another song similar to that night, but with a higher quality, waiting for you. Hearing this, Jujie was even more excited. He patted his chest, indicating that he will do his best. That weekend, more and more people were playing micro-broadcasting. An official advertisement that no one could ignore quietly appeared. Mu Xiang's new work, Fairy Tale, has made a sensational comeback. It turns out that movies can be played like this. Mu Xiang was no longer the person he used to be. He was just a slightly famous songwriter with a masterpiece. Long time no see. Murphy's sudden popularity made the entire entertainment industry focus on Mu Xiang, who had been hiding behind the scenes. Even the song College Days, that Guo sang at the freshmen's party, was dug up. However, Guo was accused of being an unknown singer, and people paid more attention to this song that had never been released. It had to be said that College Days had a very unique charm. Although it wasn't widely sung, it still helped Mu Xiang gain a group of fans. There were even unreliable media that bragged for him, saying that Mu Xiang was overflowing with talent, and that whoever he wrote for would become popular. Of course, those who really knew the industry wouldn't think so. For a song to become popular, the songwriter's contribution couldn't be ignored, but the singer's role couldn't be ignored. In any case, to be able to create more than 10 fine songs, Mu Xiang had already stood out from a large number of songwriters, and was pursued by many record companies. They didn't know where they got Yang Yi's email address, and invitations flew in like snowflakes. The conditions were not low, and they wanted Mu Xiang to join their company. Yang Yi didn't want to pay attention to this invitation, but it was also annoying, forcing Yang Yi to change his email address. Old Master Hu's son's company, Chen Yijie's company, Tianxiang, also threw out an olive branch again. Yang Yi's attitude towards them was better. At least he gave a response, and frankly told them that he wanted to open a studio. Tianxiang was a company that knew how to behave. Not only did they not pester him, but they also promised to give some support to Yang Yi's studio. Of course, Chen Yijie also made a timely request to Yang Yi to write another song. Chen Yijie didn't release albums that quickly, as he preferred to be meticulous. However, when it came to writing songs, it was better to do it sooner rather than later. They also didn't know when Yang Yi would have inspiration. Mu Xiang's current popularity was comparable to Murphy's, so when such an advertisement appeared on Microbroadcasting's website, the netizens couldn't help but click on it. Mu Xiang's new work, Fairy Tale? There's a new song? With such questions in mind, they entered the website of the first Microbroadcasting Cup micromovie competition. The website was very simple, and even the detailed rules and requirements of the micromovie competition were narrowed into a subpage, in the form of a button on the main page. The registration entry was also just a button. The only thing that took up a huge space on the main page was a wide video screen. On the cover, it was a scene of Guang playing the piano in the practice room with Su Shishir standing behind him. Of course, the title of the micromovie was also on the cover, Fairy Tale. What did micromovie mean? And this song was made into a movie? The netizens' curiosity was overflowing like the Yellow River, and they couldn't help but click on the video. The video unfolded like a movie. At first, it was a flashback, with a few people pushing a piano out of the darkness. Then, a fat man in a suit with a blank face walked out and bowed. The empty auditorium was strangely filled with people, as if it was just a camera change. This kind of dark tone gave people a very strong sense of oppression. The applause sounded, and the fat man stared blankly ahead. When the applause stopped, there seemed to be a faint, Do your best in the empty performance hall. What did that mean? The netizens who had just clicked on the video were confused. However, the fat man turned around and walked to the piano with the stage lights on. And some information about the movie started to appear on the screen. It was just like a real movie. Fairy tale. Director. Du Yuanlei, screenwriter. Yang Yi, fairy tale songwriter. Mu Xiang. Although the oppressive feeling at the beginning made many people uncomfortable, the netizens continued to watch because of this songwriter. Chapter 412. When Yang Yi came back from outside, the coffee shop was very lively. Everyone from the film crew had come over. Guozi even ran over and opened the door for Yang Yi enthusiastically. He smiled and said, "Brother Yang, you're the only one left. Come quickly." Yang Yi undid his scarf and looked at the group of people in confusion. He asked curiously, "What's going on? Why are all of you here? Where's my daughter?" Fairy Tale is premiering on micro-broadcasting today. Everyone wants to come over and watch it together. Guozi helped to call out. "Shishi, your father is looking for you." "Daddy." A little girl with a red face came out from the circle of girls and looked over in confusion. There were a lot of people in the coffee shop today. Moreover, there were a few girls who came with their boyfriends or roommates. When they saw the cute Shishi, they wanted to play with her. The little girl also had a lot of fun playing with a group of young ladies. However, she did not hear the sound of her father coming back. "Papa, you're back." When Cece saw her father, she happily jumped over and jumped into her father's arms. She did not wait for her father to speak and could not wait to introduce the new sisters she met today to him. Daddy, let me tell you. They're super funny." At this time, Guozi and Wang Chao had already connected the big screen to the computer and opened the webpage of the first Weibo Cup micromovie competition. In the midst of everyone's cheers, Du Yuanlei's face was also red. She walked up and clicked on the video embarrassedly. Yang Yi and Du Yuanlei had watched this video a few times. However, at this time, when they watched it together in an environment with so many people, it felt a little different. It was a lot more fun. Almost every scene could cause everyone to talk about it. Many of the behind-the-scenes scenes during the filming of the micromovie were recalled. The most interesting scene was the scene where Guang and Qinwen kissed passionately in Su Shirshi's new house after she moved. Although the nosebleeds that the two of them had smeared on their mouths were fake, the passionate kiss between Guozi and Qinwen was real. Du Yuanlei couldn't help but pause the scene. She smiled and said, "Guozi, let me ask you, when you were shooting this scene, did you deliberately NG so many times?" This sentence caused Wang Chao, Zhu Liyang, and the others to kick up a fuss. Qinwen, who played the role of Su Shirshi, was also there. However, she had acted in many dramas and was very knowledgeable. She wasn't as naive as Guozi, so it was fine for her to speak dirty words. She giggled and teased Guozi. "That's right. Director Du decided for me. At that time he almost bit my lips. I don't have any experience." Guozi couldn't be thick-skinned at this time, and started to explain himself with a red face. However, this also triggered an even louder laughter. Even Ding Xiang couldn't help but laugh as she glanced at Guozi. Wang Chao patted Guozi's shoulder and pretended to be good buddies. He said, "Xiaoguo, it's okay. You're still young. When you grow up and have a girlfriend, you'll have experience. Go. Get lost." Guozi laughed and pushed him away. On this side it was lively, but on Yang Yi's side, she didn't let it go. She twisted her little head, pulled her father's hand, and anxiously said, "Papa, is it done? I want to watch it." It turned out that Yang Yi had covered the little girl's eyes when the kissing scene appeared. This part was not suitable for children. "No, you can't watch it yet," Yang Yi gently persuaded. However, she was really curious. Although she didn't understand what Uncle Gua and the others were talking about, she heard everyone's laughter. She felt that it would be a very interesting thing, and the little girl couldn't wait to watch it. She pulled her father's hand. Yang Yi was afraid that he would hurt his daughter, so he didn't use any strength at all. However, this really allowed her to open a small gap. Through the gap between her father's fingers, she saw the scene of Uncle Gua and Sister Qin when kissing on the big screen. Therefore, after a while the video continued. Yang Yi loosened his hand that was covering his daughter's eyes. She pouted her little mouth, looking unhappy and unwilling to pay attention to her father. "Hey, why are you unhappy?" Yang Yi laughed as he scratched the little girl's delicate little nose and said, "Dad didn't let you watch that part just now because some scenes are not suitable for your age." "Papa, you're lying to a child." She couldn't pretend anymore. She pouted and said angrily, "That's not it. Uncle Gua and Sister Qinwen kissing. It's not that you can't watch it. You and Mom also kiss." Yang Yi was stunned, and the few girls next to him covered their mouths and laughed secretly. The copyright protection in this world was very good, so the micro-movie Fairy Tale also needed to be paid to watch. Although the cost was only a few cents, it was still money after all. In order to promote this micro-movie competition, Micro-Broadcasting chose to make it free on the first day of the premiere. Indeed, it attracted a lot of traffic for this video. The number of people who watched it reached 3 million in 24 hours. Of course, this was also because of Micro-Broadcasting's drainage. However, what was surprising was that on the second day, Fairy Tale started to be charged. Many of the netizens who watched it on the first day actually chose to come back and pay. Good work, good song. If I don't pay for this video, I won't feel at ease. If I don't buy this video, I won't be able to watch it in the future even if I want to. I won't feel at ease. A comment expressed the thoughts of many netizens. The comments below the song were very popular. Many were praising the fairy tale written by Mu Xiang, but there were also many who were passionately commenting on this micro-movie. They commented on the movie's plot, characters, actors, and so on. So a movie can be shot like this too. A complete story in less than 10 minutes. It's short but not simple. It's very good. The moment Su Shirshir fell to the ground, I cried. The screenwriter is despicable. Why did he write Su Shirshir to death? Sop sop. She's so cute. She helped Ah Guang write a song. After moving house, she's a little unruly, but also very sweet and clingy. I really want to have a girlfriend like her. When I watched it, I found Su Shirshir very familiar. After that, I looked at the credits. As expected, it's Qinwen, the beautiful girl who acted as Concubine Ru's personal maid in Qin Palace's biography of Concubine Ru! Why did they have to make Fatty the male lead? I feel that it's a little disgusting. Is the person above stupid? Didn't you see the plot? Fatty Ah Guang was laughed at by his girlfriend because he was fat. He can't be her prince. After watching the video, I went to buy the theme song. Teacher Mu Xiang's songs are really good. Listening to Fairy Tale, I cried my eyes out. The micro-movie Fairy Tale had exploded in popularity on the internet, but it was unable to cause much of a stir in reality for the time being. After all, the pace of the internet was different from the current entertainment industry. Although the people working in the entertainment industry would also pay attention to the public opinion on the internet and the discussions of the fans on microblogs, they had an inherent understanding of traditional media and then online media, so they did not notice the influence of this micro-movie. Just like this, Fairy Tale quietly became popular in the common environment. As more and more people recommended this micro-movie to the people around them, more and more people began to hum, "I'd like to be the angel you love in the fairy tale." It was getting closer and closer to being officially reported by traditional media and known by everyone. At that time, what kind of power would it have? Chapter 413. After Murphy held a concert in Beijing, she did not return immediately. She also attended a signing event on the weekend according to the company's arrangement. She did not return to Jiangcheng until Monday. "Sister, are we still going back to the company? Or are we going home directly?" Emo Shawan raised her hand and looked at her watch. Murphy's mouth moved. She wanted to say that they were going back to the company, but when she thought of facing Niu Miling, she could not summon up her courage, so she shook her head and said, "Let's go home. We'll go to the company tomorrow." Emo Shawan did not think too much about it. She nodded and said, "All right, you can rest for another day." Murphy returned home at this time. She went to kindergarten, but Yang Yi was still at home. When she opened the courtyard door, Yang Yi appeared in front of her with a smile. Wife, welcome back. Yang Yi took out his hand from behind his back, and a bouquet of bright peonies appeared in his hand. In fact, there was no special hiding because the bouquet was a little big and Yang Yi could not cover it at all. Murphy's mood suddenly improved. She took the flowers and said with a smile, "What are you doing? You made it so grand. Because this is your first concert after so many years, and it was a great success. I have to congratulate you. Let's celebrate." Yang Yi opened his arms and said with a smile. Murphy's face was slightly red. While holding the flowers, she leaned sideways and snuggled into Yang Yi's arms. Then she said in a soft voice, "Isn't it because of you that I can succeed? If you didn't write so many songs for me." Yang Yi hugged her and interrupted her with some heartache and said, "What? You can succeed because you worked very hard. Look at your voice. After singing a concert, it's not as strong as before. It's a little hoarse. This is normal. After singing a concert, you have to rest for a period of time. Why don't I help you invite Shinijia? Last time you helped him warm up the stage. This time, let him warm up the stage for you. How embarrassing. Last time. Do you think I don't know about what happened last time? It wasn't someone who took the initiative to invite me. It was you who asked for it on my behalf. What's there to be embarrassed about? He even wants me to write songs for him. Besides, we're so close. What's wrong with asking him to sing a song for me? It's not like I'm not paying him." Just like that, the two of them hugged each other lovingly and went upstairs. In the afternoon, Murphy, who could finally rest, slept for a long time. She woke up in a daze, and just as she opened the bedroom door, she heard a cat meowing in the living room. She turned her head curiously and saw Yang Yi holding the chubby and struggling Xiao Guai and stuffing it into a portable cat cage. Inside, the other two British Shorthairs that had been locked up earlier were looking outside in a daze. Meow. Shivering looked at Yang Yi and let out a short cry. Her big, doubtful eyes seemed to be saying, "Poop picker, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why did you catch them?" Murphy asked, puzzled. Yang Yi took off her gloves, pulled Mo Fei to the dining room on the side, and whispered to her, "Today they are going to be sterilized. Last time, someone told me that it is almost time for them to go into estrus, so they need to be sterilized. Otherwise, they will scream every day and give birth to a large group of kittens." Murphy understood. She nodded and couldn't help but laugh. "Okay then, but why are you talking like that? Are you afraid that they'll find out?" Yang Yi hurriedly turned his head to look at the living room. Then he turned back and said as if he was facing a formidable enemy, "Quiet, quiet. A few days ago, someone told me to take them for sterilization surgery. We must not let them think that we were the ones who brought them there. We must act as if they were the ones who were harmed by bad people. Then they won't hold a grudge against us. Cats are intelligent." Yang Yi had a strange look on his face. It was rare to see him like this. Murphy chuckled and said, "Then what are you going to do?" "Let's go to the coffee shop first. In a while, Guazi will come over to help." Yang Yi asked, "Do you want to go and take a look?" Murphy's eyes sparkled, and she nodded with great interest. After a while, Yang Yi and Murphy appeared in the coffee shop downstairs with cat cages. Like customers, they sat in the booth of the coffee shop, drinking coffee and talking and laughing. Of course, it was still an act. Murphy's acting was terrible. She couldn't help but turn her head to peek at the cat cages on the ground. In the cat cages, the three British Shorthairs were restless. They liked to get into the small sealed box, but they didn't like to be locked in the cage with cold iron wires. They had no freedom. It seemed to be a rotation. Xiao Guai's head moved away from the cage, and Xiao Gray's big round face came up. He looked at his owner and scratched the iron wire with his claws. "Is it soon?" Murphy didn't know how to pretend to talk and laugh. She could only laugh and ask in a low voice. On the other side of the bar, Yang Huan was laughing so hard. She saw that Ding Xiang was helping Guazi. Guazi was wearing a crooked hat and a big pair of sunglasses. Ding Xiang was also helping him tie a big cloth to cover his face. "Where did you get this mask? Why does it look like the big floral underwear of the aunties in our village?" Yang Huan laughed. "Okay." Ding Xiang couldn't help but laugh. "Enough talk, I'm going." Guizi did not have the time to respond to Yang Huan. He pushed up his sunglasses and charged forward like he was going to die. The fashionably dressed criminal rushed over, grabbed the cat cages and ran away. Yang Yi stood up. He seemed to be panicking. Like Air Kong in the emoji pack, he opened his hand and shouted, "Robbery! Quick, stop him! He stole my cat!" However, he didn't even move his legs. Murphy turned her head and saw Yang Yi's exaggerated look. She couldn't help but turn her head and bury her head on the table. Her shoulders were shaking, but she couldn't laugh out loud. It was very difficult. Guizi was also acting. He carried the confused kittens and rushed out in a hurry. There was already a taxi waiting outside. When he got into the car, the taxi drove away quickly. There were actually a few customers in the coffee shop, but they had been informed before. They pretended not to see and cooperated. When Guizi rushed out, they laughed. Yang Yi also shook his head and laughed. He bowed to the customers. Yang Huan jumped over and said with a smile, "Brother, I don't think your acting is good. It's too exaggerated and not real." "Little girl, what do you know?" Yang Yi was embarrassed and said resentfully, "Besides, I was just acting for the cat. It wasn't really acting. What should we do next? Should we follow them and have a look?" After laughing, Mo Fei began to worry. "Sure." Yang Yi nodded and said, "Let's change our clothes. When we get to the pet hospital, Bab and the other cats will have been injected with anesthesia. They won't be able to recognize us." Chapter 414. When Yang Yi and Murphy arrived at the pet hospital, the 3 kittens had already fallen into a coma. This pet hospital was relatively large, and there were enough doctors to perform 3 operations at the same time. "How is it? When do we start?" Yang Yi asked Guizi in a low voice. Although Murphy had raised cats when she was young, this was the first time she had seen cats that had been injected with anesthesia. Looking at the 3 British Shorthairs with their eyes open, she was so scared that she hid behind Yang Yi. Soon, the doctor said that we need to wait for 15 minutes for the anesthesia to take effect. "It has been 12 or 13 minutes. Guizi said. He had taken off his mask, hat, and glasses, so he didn't look so out of place anymore. After Mo Fei confirmed that the cat's eyes were open after the anesthetic injection, she was relieved. She leaned over with Yang Yi and touched little Guai, who was still warm. "Look at them, they are so magical," Murphy whispered to Yang Yi, as if she was afraid that the kittens would hear her. It was indeed magical. They were all lying on their sides on the small white beds, unconscious, with their tongues hanging out and their eyes crooked. "Let me tell you, this is fun." Guizi smirked and raised his eyes at Yang Yi and the others. Then he walked over to Dodo and stretched out his hand to pull Dodo's tongue. Dodo's pink tongue was stretched out by Guizi, and then retracted a little. "Pfft." Murphy couldn't help but laugh. She cried, "Don't torture them, they are already so miserable." More than half an hour later, the kittens' operations were completed one after another. Although Yang Yi and Murphy were very concerned, they couldn't pick up the kittens yet. The doctor had to use a special lifting position to put the kittens that had just been operated on into the pet box that had been brought over before. These little patients were treated very well. There was a layer of mats in the pet box, and Yang Yi covered them with soft blankets after they lay down. After a while, the anesthesia gradually wore off. Yang Yi and Murphy blew on the kittens' eyes according to the method taught by the doctor. Gradually, Darling blinked and began to wake up. Yang Yi and Murphy looked at each other, and suddenly they both began to act. "Oh darling Dodo Gray Daddy Mommy, I finally found you. That damned bastard abducted you all." The damned Guizi had already slipped away. His scenes had already been completed, and now he was in a hurry to return to the coffee shop to report the good news. No, it should be said that he was going back to the coffee shop to show Ding Xiang and Yang Huan the photos he had taken of the kittens with their tongues hanging out. It was so funny. Yang Yi didn't know whether the kittens could understand him or not. Anyway, he saw that they only moved their eyes a little, and they hadn't completely woken up from the anesthesia. But at this time, it was almost time to take them home to rest. Shishi was taken home by her father. Today, The little girl was very happy because her little friend brought her good news. She had already told her father in the car, but she still couldn't wait to tell her mom. Mom, Xiaoyu's papa has recovered. Either he has recovered, or he can talk, and he's not scary anymore. Murphy looked at Yang Yi confusedly. She didn't know what her daughter was talking about. Yang Yi didn't say it before because he was afraid that it would affect Murphy's mood. This woman was cold on the outside but warm on the inside, and it was easy for her to be affected by this kind of thing. But now that it was mentioned, he told Murphy about Nan Xiaoyu's father's cerebral infarction. I almost died. The little girl nodded vigorously and said sadly, I was so scared. Don't be scared. Didn't Dad make a pinky promise with you? Yang Yi smiled and patted his daughter's back. He okay then. She wasn't as emotional as she was that night, but she quickly cheered up and ran to the living room. On Saturday night, she was crying, worried that I would suddenly die. Yang Yi told Murphy about the situation where he and Shishi hugged and cried. Of course, he was concise and didn't deliberately stir up emotions. Murphy sighed faintly and said slightly solemnly, It's just like the fairy tale you wrote. I don't know when people will suddenly disappear. I'm also scared. The fairy tale micro-movie, Murphy watched it earlier than anyone else. Because when Yang Yi took it back from Du Yuanlei, she wanted to watch Shishi's scenes. It could be said that she had watched this micro-movie countless times and almost memorized the plot, but every time she watched it, she would feel sad. Silly, what are you thinking about? Yang Yi hugged her in his arms and stroked her hair. He smiled and said, Shishi is 4.5 years old. I think it's normal for her to think too much. How old are you? Why are you still scaring yourself? However, Murphy raised her head and pouted like a little girl. She said unhappily, If I suddenly die of illness like Su Shishir, you must not mistreat yourself and find another woman. As long as you can treat Shishi well, it's fine. Towards the end, she looked like she was about to cry. Yang Yi angrily knocked her head and said, You're thinking about these things that don't even have a shadow, and you still want to arrange things for me? Instead of thinking about these things, it's better to think about how to live well. Let's live a good life. Woo-woo, you're going to find another woman, and you still hit me. Murphy made an aggrieved look. Yang Yi froze for a moment, and he couldn't help but laugh. You're still laughing at me. Murphy sniffled. Her appearance was extremely cute. Who said I'm going to find another woman? Let me tell you, baby. You're my one and only. Yang Yi almost sang out. You didn't object. Murphy didn't let it go. She hammered Yang Yi's chest and said angrily, so you were just setting a trap for me. When the two were flirting here, Shishi nervously ran over. She didn't pay attention to her parents who were awkwardly separated, and anxiously pulled her father's clothes. Papa look, what happened to Xiao Guai, Xiao Hui and Dodo? Shishi was referring to the 3 British short-hairs who had just woken up, but seemed to still be under the influence of the anesthetic. They were stumbling as if they were drunk, and from time to time, they would roll around on the soft carpet. Yang Yi followed Shishi. After seeing that there were no other problems, he smiled and said to Shishi, It's okay, they're a little abnormal today, but they'll be fine tomorrow. Then Papa, why are they wearing clothes? Shishi looked at the gauze wrapped around the kittens and asked puzzledly. Perhaps noticing the gazes of their owners, the kittens all turned their heads and looked over. Xiao Hui lowered its head and meowed, looking a little dispirited. Dodo was a little irritable. She grabbed the frame of the cat tree and made a hissing sound that didn't sound like a cat's. Well, that's because today is a little special, so they're wearing it temporarily. They'll be fine tomorrow. Yang Yi could only give an excuse. He couldn't tell Shishi that they had been sterilized, right? The little girl would definitely continue to ask about sterilization. But Shishi still felt that her doubts had not been solved. No buts. You don't have to play with them today anyway. Their tempers are a little unstable, so don't let them catch you. Yang Yi pulled his daughter and said softly. This was also the advice of other cat owners in the hospital. Perhaps it was because of the pain, or the fear after being drugged, or the gauze wrapped around their bodies, but the 3 British short-hairs were in a different state than usual. Okay, but will Xiao Guai and the others be fine? Shishi looked at her father with her big eyes with sadness. Yes, they'll be fine tomorrow. Yang Yi himself was not very sure, but his tone was very sure to give his daughter confidence. Chapter 415. The microfilm fairy tale spread the fastest in Jiang City Media University. After all, it was filmed by their own students and many of the scenes were from Jiang City. When the film first appeared on the internet, Facebook, which was used by the students the most, was all about this news. The next day, there were teachers in the film academy who recommended this video to the students in class. A professor from the directing faculty even strongly suggested that the students could follow the model of fairy tale and shoot short videos and microfilms to participate in the microfilm competition. Using the competition as a substitute for training could be said to be very meaningful. Of course, there were voices of envy, exclamation, and praise. There were also voices of jealousy and slander. I can do it too. Such a sour tone was too rare. However, no one knew that after watching this microfilm that became popular on the internet, someone's intestines turned green with regret. Tang Kaitai. Although he was forgetful and couldn't remember the original script, and only felt that the plot was a little different from before, now that he saw that the same group of people had actually filmed such a popular movie, and that the fatty he looked down on had actually stood out, and even gained the support of many fangirls, Tang Kaitai regretted it when he thought about how he had rejected the role himself. If I had known that director Du was so capable, I would have acted in the production team with peace of mind. The most popular person now should be me. However, in the end, Tang Kaitai was more willing to find the reason from others. It's all because of that fatty and that Mu Ziang. He wrote songs for that fatty and didn't write for me. F***ck, this should have been my honor. Because of this, he also had a deep grudge against Guizi, Mu Ziang, and even Du Yuanlei. Once Fairy Tale was released, it affected many people, including Lin Muan. However, his mentality wasn't as twisted as Tang Kaitai's. That night, Lin Muan and his girlfriend Ran Jin used the computer to watch Fairy Tale in their teacher's apartment. This microfilm was a little like a Korean drama. There was no doubt that it was lethal to women. Ran Jin was so touched that she shed tears. Lin Muan took a tissue and handed it to Ran Jin. He sighed softly and said, "Do you know who Mu Ziang is, who wrote the song Fairy Tale?" "Yes, he wrote Murphy's and Chunijia's songs, right?" Ran Jin said. "Yes, and Mu Ziang is my boss brother Yang." Lin Muan smiled bitterly. "I only found out today. I didn't expect my boss to be such a great songwriter. Also, you probably didn't expect the lady boss to be Murphy." Murphy? Ran Jin was shocked. She had seen Murphy from afar before, but she didn't take a closer look. Lin Mu and had gone to participate in the audition in Tingshan district a few days ago, and did not attend the crew's gathering. Previously, Yang Yi didn't deliberately show off his identity, so Guizi and the others tacitly didn't say anything. When Lin Muan came back today, he asked curiously, "Hey, this Mu Ziang, how do you know him?" Then Yang Huan and Ding Xiang explained it to him with a smile. Otherwise, he would still be in the dark. "But that's true. I looked into the song he sang that day, but I couldn't find it. I guess Brother Yang wrote it too." Lin Mu and didn't care about Murphy's question. He looked at Guizi, who was singing passionately in the video, and said enviously, "Do you want your boss to write songs for you too?" Ran Jin knew her boyfriend too well. He was a little introverted and shy. He didn't know how to ask for help, and he would keep his feelings to himself. "Yes, I do, but I don't know how to say it." Lin Muan moved his lips, but he still sighed. To Ran Jin, he still told her his feelings. It was normal to want it, but it would be abnormal if he didn't. After all, the name Muzong was too famous. It was like a golden finger. Whoever he pointed to would get pregnant. No, whoever he pointed to would get famous. In the entire entertainment industry, there weren't many singers who didn't want Mu Ziang to write songs for them. Lin Muan didn't know any songwriters. If he wanted to have his own songs, he could only think of this channel. But he could only think about it. And I don't have any capital. Even if I asked, I don't have the money or the qualifications to beg Brother Yang to write songs for me. I heard that many companies wouldn't sell a song for $1 million. Lin Muan said to Ran Jin sadly. Actually, you said that your boss is Mu Xiang. Ran Jin carefully recalled Lin Muan's usual work situation, hesitated for a moment, and said, I think it would be better if you didn't ask your boss to write songs for you. Lin Muan was a little surprised. However, he still trusted his girlfriend's judgment. So he looked at her and asked curiously, how so? I occasionally read the gossip news. There are a lot of rumors about Mu Xiang this year. But until now he has only written songs for Chen Yijie, Murphy, and this Guang. Ran Jin said. Guang is played by Guazi. We all call him Xiaogua. Lin Muan said. Well, anyway, I think that Boss Yang is not the kind of person who is greedy for money. He has written a lot of good songs, but he won't give them to anyone who wants them. Ran Jin said confidently. He is more picky about the singing skills of the singers, such as Chen Yijie and Murphy. Their singing skills are very good. Lin Muan's eyes were a little dim. He was a little confident in his singing skills. After all, he was best at singing with a falsetto. But compared to these two people, Lin Muan was still a little ashamed. But your boss will not only write songs for singers with singing skills. Look at Guang, who is Xiaogua. He can also sing fairy tale. This shows that he still takes care of his friends. Lin Muan asked with some doubts. But why hasn't Brother Yang expressed his intention to write songs for me? Maybe he thinks that you are still a little lacking? Or maybe he still needs to observe your character. He doesn't know you well enough. Ran Jin thought. She shook her head and said, no matter what, if you take the initiative to ask for songs, it won't be good. This will make him have a bad opinion of you. It had to be said that Ran Jin's feeling was very accurate. What do I need to do? Lin Muan asked. Don't think about anything. Just like before, seriously work as a pianist in the coffee shop. Do whatever the boss asks you to do. Ran Jin said. To be honest, Ran Jin liked Lin Muan's current job. The income was not low, and the content was simple. She didn't know how much selfishness there was in her suggestion. Of course, she was indeed helping Lin Muan think of a way. As a counselor, figuring out other people's state of mind was also a unique skill. But Brother Yang also supports me to participate in the Song of Youth competition. Lin Muan frowned and said. Then you should talk to them more about this competition. For example, the information about your opponent. Let your friends in the coffee shop help you come up with ideas on how to defeat your opponent. Don't isolate yourself because of the competition. You have to integrate into your boss circle. If he has a good song, then he will want you. Ran Jin said to Lin Muan. Although Lin Muan still had some doubts, he still listened to his girlfriend's advice and put away his drifting heart from participating in the competition. He didn't know that it was fortunate that Ran Jin had grabbed the string and pulled him back, preventing him from flying further and further away on the path of chasing after dreams. After 2 days of hesitation, Murphy finally made up her mind. She was going to talk to Niu Meiling. Yang Yi was right. She couldn't keep dragging it out because that would make things worse. Sister Ling would also feel that she had been deceiving her feelings and bear a grudge against her. You can talk to your sister Ling directly, but don't worry. This matter can't be rushed. This was Yang Yi's original words. Murphy remembered the second half, but ignored the part where Yang Yi said that he would help her think of a way. Murphy foolishly thought that Yang Yi didn't want her to affect the concert, and wait until the concert was over to talk to Niu Meiling. Now that the concert in Beijing was over, the concert in Shanghai was still a while away. Murphy felt that it was time for her to talk to Niu Meiling. Chapter 416. Murphy came to Niu Meiling's office alone. Niu Meiling's assistant had just come out with a kettle. When she saw Murphy, she quickly nodded and smiled. Sister Fei, you're here? If it was another small celebrity, she probably wouldn't be so polite. But Murphy's identity was special. She was basically the same as that hedonistic son of a rich family, Zhu Jia. She could come whenever she wanted without any notice or appointment. Oh, it's Murphy? Come, come, come. I was looking forward to seeing you. Niu Meiling heard the commotion and poked her head in. When she saw Murphy alone, she was stunned for a moment before a smile appeared on her face. She walked over and personally pulled out a chair for Murphy to sit down. Don't pour tea. Pour Murphy a glass of lemonade. It has the effect of beautifying and whitening her skin. Neo Miling instructed her assistant before returning to her seat. Thank you. Mo Fei smiled at Sister Ling's assistant. This smile made the other party feel a little flattered. It should be known that although Mo Fei would not miss these necessary etiquettes in the past, she rarely showed her smile. Murphy also slowly changed in her happy life. Mo Shaowan didn't notice it, but these people who didn't spend much time with Murphy felt it more obvious. After some small talk and waiting for the assistant to leave, Neo Miling cut to the chase. Murphy, what do you think of the contract you brought back last time? If there are any terms that you don't think are suitable, we can continue to talk. Neo Miling said with a smile. Whether or not they could reach an agreement was another matter. She first showed her goodwill. However, she was destined to be disappointed. Murphy's expression was a little hesitant. She bit her lower lip and said straightforwardly, Sister Ling, I'm sorry. I don't want to renew the contract. Before this, Murphy had made countless drafts in her mind, but she couldn't think of a way to tactfully express her thoughts. She might as well say it directly. After saying that, Mo Fei breathed a sigh of relief. The burden that had been in his heart before had been put down. However, there were other burdens. What did you say? Neo Miling was stunned. She couldn't believe her ears. After Murphy opened her mouth, she calmly explained to Neo Miling, Sister Ling, don't misunderstand. I don't want to join another management company. Instead, I've decided to open my own studio and manage my artist's affairs independently. Neo Miling heard Mo Fei's explanation, but she didn't listen to it at all. She was very angry. She stared at Mo Fei closely, slammed the table, and shouted, Mo Fei, do you know what you are talking about? Murphy was stunned. Neo Miling didn't give Murphy a chance to speak. She said angrily, the company spent so many resources to nurture you. You wanted to make a comeback? Fine, I'll release an album for you. She actually wanted to compensate Neo Miling. Don't underestimate this income. After all, Murphy's value was soaring now. But Neo Miling looked at Murphy's stubborn appearance. Moreover, from her understanding of Murphy's character in the past, she probably knew that this matter was irreversible. Her face darkened. However, Neo Miling did not fall out with Murphy in front of her. She squeezed out a smile and said to Murphy, Murphy, you're young and impetuous. I advise you to go back and think about it. Think clearly before we talk. Murphy wanted to say something but hesitated. She saw Neo Miling's expression and knew that now was not the time to continue. She could only sigh and say, Lingjia, my choice is only based on my own personal considerations. I hope you can understand. When your emotions stabilize, I'll apologize to you later. After Murphy left, Neo Miling angrily threw her teacup, scaring the assistant who had just walked in. All of you are F***king ingrates. Get out of here. Don't bother me if you have nothing to do. Neo Miling roared. The assistant shrank his head, hid out, and closed the door. What did Lingjia Murphy say? What made Lingjia so angry? The assistant secretly listened outside the door. Although the soundproofing was good, she still heard the sound of things being smashed. She secretly clicked her tongue. How was it just anger? Neo Miling was extremely angry now. Her face was gloomy. She sat in her chair for a while before suddenly getting up. She opened the door and stared at the assistant who was pretending to read a magazine. Call manager Jian over. Chapter 417. Xiao Han typed the wrong number again. It's 44 for those who shoot cannons and planes. That night, you didn't reject me. Zhu Jie shook his car key and hummed a tune. He walked into the company from the lobby in a good mood. Brother Jie, what are you singing? The girl at the front desk tenderly leaned on the counter and asked. Ahaha, I've been thinking about writing a new song recently. I'm just randomly singing. Zhu Jie knew that this song was not his yet, so he could only laugh it off. Zhu Jie went to his office and opened the door. Du Luan was sitting in front of his small desk, using his computer. Seeing Ju Jie appear, Duluan nonchalantly closed a graph website and stood up. Jie, why did you come back to work after so long? Don't you know that a celebrity's popularity also needs to be maintained? You didn't participate in any programs or activities this month. Who knows how many people have forgotten about you? Duluan complained. Okay, don't act like an old man every time I come back, yelling in my ear. It was the same before, calling me every day. Don't you think it's annoying? Ju Jie felt that Duluan's mouth was getting more and more broken. Wasn't he very good at reading people's expressions before? Duluan smiled, but he also closed his mouth. Let me tell you, these few days, I'm not wasting my time. I'm doing a big thing. Do you understand? If it's done, this brother will be a big star in the future, Ju Jie proudly said. Duluan's curiosity was piqued. He suspiciously asked, what big thing? I'll tell you, but don't tell anyone. Ju Jie still has some trust in Duluan. When he bought the song with Yang Yi, it was Duluan's idea. He excitedly said, Sister Murphy is not going to renew the contract. Not going to renew the contract? Duluan was surprised at first, then he revealed a trace of joy. Really? If Murphy doesn't renew the contract, in the future, you'll be the company's biggest star. Now Ju Jie is indeed second only to Murphy. Zhenzhen also has some fame, but compared to the current Ju Jie, she is still a bit worse. After all, who in the world did not know the song Mistress? Duluan thought further. For example, after Murphy left, Tianmei would focus on nurturing Ju Jie. In terms of female singers, they would also focus on nurturing Zhenzhen. The more resources Ju Jie had, the more benefits Duluan would receive. He had a good relationship with Zhenzhen. The two of them were originally trainees at Tianmei, and they often helped each other out. If Zhenzhen could rise, he would also benefit from it. He of course. But that's not all. Sister Murphy is not renewing her contract. She wants to open her own studio. As long as I help her convince my aunt to let her leave safely, Mu Ziong will write songs for me. It's even better than Mistress, Ju Jie said proudly. Duluan was stunned for a moment before he asked, what's the connection between these two events? Hey, you don't know. It was Brother Mu Ziong who asked me to do this. Ju Jie's kidnapping last time was a little embarrassing, so he didn't tell Duluan. He and Murphy want to open their own studio and earn money. That's not a big deal. Ju Jie didn't mention the relationship between Mu Ziong and Murphy, but Duluan's focus wasn't here. I remember that Murphy's contract only has 4 months left. She can leave when it expires. Why did she ask you? Duluan asked curiously. That's because Sister Murphy is a person who values relationships. She wants to part with our company peacefully, so she wants me to help persuade my aunt to accept the fact. Ju Jie waved his hand and said happily, don't worry about the reason. Anyway, I'll settle this matter. Then Brother Mu Ziong will write songs for me. We've agreed on 2 songs. That's why I've been calling my dad these few days, asking him to help me persuade my aunt. Ju Jie said, helping relatives and not outsiders. His son wanted to be a big star. This was much more important than an outsider leaving. Therefore, Ju Jie's father agreed. But because he hadn't come back from Australia, he had to wait for a few days. When he came back, he would sit down with Niu Meiling and have a good talk. By the way, Duluan, is my aunt here today? I'll go ask her first. Ju Jie's purpose of returning to the company today was not to start work. At this moment, Niu Meiling and Jian Chao were chatting in the office. Sister Ling, is there no chance of redemption? Jian Chao looked at the furious Niu Meiling and asked carefully. What redemption? It's not like you don't know Murphy's character. Who can change her mind when she decides on something? When she gave birth and wanted to leave the entertainment industry, didn't I persuade her? Did she listen? Niu Meiling patted the book on the table and pointed outside. If we really do that, won't we have a falling out? Jian Chao looked at the USB flash drive on the table and said worriedly. It's not a falling out. This matter, if you and I don't say anything, who will know that we leaked it? Niu Meiling snorted. I want to vent my anger and teach her a lesson. The company has nurtured her for more than 10 years. Now that she's grown up, she wants to fly away. I'm going to die from anger because of her. You're saying that we should stuff this news to the reporters and not tell anyone that we were the ones who did it. Jian Chao had a trace of understanding. Jian Chao knew quite a few people from the media. Usually, it was inconvenient for Niu Meiling to do dirty things, so she was the one who did it. Yes, if someone else mentions it, we'll say that it has nothing to do with us. It's that Mr. Ko who didn't keep his promise, Niu Meiling exhorted. Of course, if no one mentions it, you and I will pretend that we don't know about it. Jian Chao nodded and smiled. I naturally know that. But Sister Ling, what's the point of doing this? You can't make her change her mind. Nor can you warn the others who saw Murphy wanting to leave. Is it just to vent your anger? Of course it's not just to vent my anger. Didn't she say that she wanted to fight alone, and felt that she was very powerful and didn't need the company's support? Let her try it out. If she encountered trouble and no one was there to help her with public relations, she would see how she would deal with it. I want her to understand that the world isn't as naive as she thinks. Niu Meiling said proudly. I understand, Sister Ling. You're killing two birds with one stone. Now we're trying to curry favor with her on the surface, but behind her back, if she can't solve it, she'll have to come back to us. Jian Chao said flatteringly. That's right. But what if she refuses to admit her mistake and doesn't come back? Jian Chao asked. What should we do? What else can we do? Niu Meiling's face turned pale again. Just pretend that this person never existed. If Tianmei doesn't have her, the world won't turn? Jian Chao quickly nodded. She didn't dare to touch Niu Meiling's bad luck at this time. Then Sister Ling, I'll do it now. Wait a minute. Niu Meiling's rationality came back a little. She waved her hand and said to Jian Chao, don't worry, take the things first. When Murphy's remaining 2 concerts are over, we'll leak it out. Now that she's telling me about it, as long as you leak it out, as long as you're not stupid, you'll be able to guess who did it. Jian Chao smiled bitterly and nodded. She was just following orders. Sister Ling could do whatever she wanted. Coming out of Niu Meiling's office, Jian Chao saw Zhu Jie walking over excitedly. Hey Manager Jian, is my aunt inside? Zhu Jie asked. Jian Chao wanted to say something but stopped. She shook her head and said, yes, you can go find her. After saying that, Jian Chao left. Zhu Jie went into Niu Meiling's office and closed the office door. You're back? Niu Meiling's face was a little pale, but when she faced Zhu Jie, she forced a smile. Zhu Jie didn't notice this. He said with a smile, Aunt, I have something to tell you. What is it? Niu Meiling's face was a little better. It's like this. I've encountered a particularly troublesome matter. I want to ask for your opinion. Zhu Jie had already thought of an excuse. I have a friend who raised a cat. He had raised it since it was young for a few years. They had a very good relationship. But then, a male cat suddenly came and took her cat away without saying anything. That female cat left just like that, making its owner very sad and angry. Niu Meiling's eyes sharpened as she stared at Zhu Jie. But what's interesting is that the female cat still misses its owner. Although it's leaving, it doesn't want its owner to be too sad, so it wants to be more obedient. It wants to play with its owner when it comes back to play in the future. Zhu Jie said to himself. Hey Aunt, do you think this female cat is worth pitying? Can its owner forgive her? After he said that, he looked at Niu Meiling expectantly, thinking that his story was flawless. However, Niu Meiling gritted her teeth and asked word by word. Who was it? I told you that Murphy was leaving? Chapter 418. In Yang Yi's house, the condition of the 3 kittens had been attracting everyone's attention. The first night was the most torturous. Perhaps because they were uncomfortable, they were still screaming in the middle of the night. Yang Yi went to comfort them, but he was scratched by their claws. The next day they were in a better mood. Yang Yi also fed them water and food. However, in order to prevent them from licking their wounds, Yang Yi gave them Elizabeth collars. In addition, to prevent them from rubbing around and touching their wounds, Yang Yi also put on cat pants for them. Today, Yang Yi pulled down their pants and saw that the wounds had begun to scab, and the fur on the side had grown a little. Yang Yi decided to take off their armor. However, this could only be done when she came back. The little girl was most worried about her 3 friends. She accompanied them every day and didn't even want to watch her favorite cartoons. Do you think they will wilt after that? After Murphy came back, she squatted down and looked at the cats for a while. She even tidied their fur. Probably not. Didn't you see that they started to jump around again today? And the book said that after a cat is sterilized, its personality will become docile and take care of its family. Yang Yi smiled and pointed at Xiao Gray, who was lying in front of the glass window on the balcony, and said, "Look at this guy. He wanted to run outside all day long before, so you didn't dare to open the window. Now he is so obedient." At this moment, Yang Yi's cell phone rang. His cell phone had 2 cards and 2 standby cards. The one who received the call was the secondary card, and only Zhu Jie knew this number. Why was Zhu Jie calling him at this time? Yang Yi frowned and went to the study to pick up the phone. When the phone was connected, Yang Yi heard Zhu Jie complaining. "Boss Mu Xiang, you are not loyal to your friends. Didn't we agree that I would help you find a way to appease my aunt? Why did Sister Murphy run to my aunt and tell her that she did not want to renew the contract?" Murphy told Niu Miling about this? Yang Yi was stunned. "Yes. You don't even know what happened today. My aunt almost exploded on the spot. And then she was planning to take revenge on Sister Mo Fei. I heard that a paparazzi hunter took a photo of you registering at the Civil Affairs Bureau, so my aunt bought it. Then my aunt even planned to ask someone to spread the news about you. There were too many accidents." Yang Yi was stunned once again. His mind was spinning rapidly at this time. And he finally realized that he had overlooked something strange that day. First, someone was following him in a car. Then, at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, he felt a fleeting sense of being watched. It was probably at that time that he and Murphy were secretly photographed. When Yang Yi thought about it now, he couldn't help but want to slap himself. F***CK, you're a top assassin. You're living too comfortably, aren't you? You didn't even notice it. However, Zhu Jie was here to take credit. He said proudly, "But Mu Xiang, you don't have to worry about this. Fortunately, I came to the company today and heard about this from my aunt. Then I spent a lot of effort to calm her down." Yang Yi's face relaxed a little. He asked, "You mean the matter has been resolved?" Zhu Jie paused and said with some embarrassment, "Not yet, my aunt hasn't relented. But don't worry, she doesn't want to make things worse, so she won't expose those photos. She just can't get over it." "But Mu Xiang, don't worry. When my dad comes back from Australia in 2 days, he will persuade my aunt. My aunt listens to my dad the most. I promise you that this matter will be settled perfectly," Zhu Jie said confidently. "Okay then. I'll wait for your good news." On the other end of the phone, Mu Xiang hung up first, but Zhu Jie didn't care. He said proudly to Du Luan, who was next to him, "My aunt wants to save face, but I think that after my dad comes back, everything will be fine. Luckily, I was quick-witted and persuaded my aunt to put this plan on hold. Otherwise, my 2 songs would have flown away like a cooked duck." Du Luan didn't care about this problem. He breathed heavily and asked Zhu Jie, "You said that Sister Ling spent 500,000 to buy those photos?" "Yeah. Don't you think that paparazzi hunter is very shady?" After Yang Yi hung up the phone, he blamed himself more. He sat in the study in a daze, reflecting on his mistakes. This time, he was photographed by the paparazzi hunter. Although it didn't seem like a big deal, in his opinion, it was just exposure, and Murphy had already been prepared to be honest with him about their relationship. She just wanted to wait until the end of the contract before announcing it to the public. However, this exposed his covetousness, which was weakening his vigilance. If a wolf loses its claws and fangs, then it's not a wolf anymore, but a husky. Although Yang Yi didn't want to go back to those days of fighting and killing, danger always hid under the calm river. If he became a normal person, how could he shoulder the responsibility of protecting Shishi and Murphy? Just as Yang Yi was blaming himself in a mess, Murphy also found it strange. Because Yang Yi rarely made phone calls behind her back, and because he went into the study and didn't come out for so long, She walked over to take a look. What's wrong with you? Yang Yi had already noticed Murphy's movement when she walked over. He raised his head and saw Murphy's concerned gaze. Nothing. Yang Yi collected his thoughts and smiled at Murphy. But come here. Why are you secretly making phone calls? Murphy muttered, but still obediently walked over. Yang Yi pulled her into his arms, then pinched her nose and asked dotingly, why didn't you listen to me? I told you that I would help you solve it. Why did you secretly go and confess to Niu Meiling? Hey, Murphy's face revealed an awkward expression. You suddenly told Niu Meiling, making me very passive. But you told me to tell Sister Ling directly. Murphy said unconvinced. You can't blame me. I told you to tell Sister Ling directly. Yang Yi was stunned. Murphy repeated what Yang Yi said that day. Okay, I didn't express it well and made you misunderstand. Yang Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What I meant was that I would find someone to talk to Niu Meiling directly about this problem, not you. Then isn't it very troublesome now? Sigh, I told Sister Ling directly and she was very angry. I feel like I messed things up again. Murphy looked at Yang Yi worriedly. It's a bit troublesome, but fortunately, the person I found should be reliable. He should be able to help us make peace. Yang Yi rubbed Murphy's head and smiled as he comforted her. He didn't tell Murphy any more details because he didn't need her to touch too much on the dark side of human nature. Since they were going to leave, it was better to leave a good memory. Why do I always do bad things with good intentions? Murphy blamed herself. Don't worry, don't you still have me? Even if you poke a hole in the sky, I can help you fix it. Yang Yi laughed. Murphy's heart was filled with sweetness, but she still shook her head and said, I don't want you to always wipe my ass. I'm not a 3-year-old child. In the future, I should try my best to pay attention and not bring trouble to everyone. Actually, trouble isn't very important. I have a strong interest in the action of wiping my ass. Yang Yi chuckled. You want to die? In broad daylight. Chapter 419. He didn't have to care about those messy things for the time being. In the evening, Yang Yi went to the kindergarten to pick Cici up. The little girl was too concerned about Xiao Guai and the other cats. She talked about them with her friends today. So when Yang Yi picked up Xixi at the kindergarten, he was surrounded by Yang Luoqi, Lan Xian, and a few other concerned children. They said with concern, Uncle Yang, you have to buy good food for Xiao Guai to get better soon. After returning home, Xixi greeted her mother, lifted her little skirt, and hurried to the living room. Meow. Xiao Guai now knew how good its little owner was. As soon as it saw her, it jumped down from the cat tree, raised its round Elizabeth collar, and meowed pitifully. Xiao Guai, are you okay? Cici gathered her skirt and hugged it in her arms. She squatted down and stroked little Guai's head with a worried frown. Meow. Xiao Guai rubbed its head against its little owner's palm. Its big round face looked simple and honest. The British Shorthair's expression was not as rich as other cats, but it still used its weak meow to win Xixi's love. Seeing Xiao Guai being stroked so comfortably, Little Gray also jumped down from the sofa. Its tail curled up and curled around its little owner's arm. Dodo was a female cat. Its recovery period was longer than that of a male cat, so it was still lying lazily on the cat tree. It only raised its head to take a look. They're fine now. I could have taken off the cover at noon, but I had to wait until you came back, so I delayed it until now. Yang Yi put down his daughter's school bag and said with a smile. On the other side, Murphy also took out a pair of scissors and handed it to Yang Yi. Xiao Guai was lying on the ground by itself. Yang Yi saved himself the trouble and held it down, ready to start. Xiao Guai might still have some trauma after the surgery. When it was held down by Yang Yi, it nervously struggled. It's okay. I just want to help you open this cover. Yang Yi had to stroke its fur to comfort it. Xixi nervously squatted beside her father and stared at him. She said worriedly, Papa, be gentle. Don't hurt Xiao Guai. Yang Yi smiled and said, How could that be? Look. Removing the Elizabeth collar was easy. There was no need for scissors. Yang Yi only needed to tear off the Velcro and remove the collar from little Guai's head. After taking it off, Lil Guai was still not used to it. It was just like when he first put it on. It twisted its head, feeling as if something was missing. However, the feeling of freedom was still good. Xiao Guai was a little restless and wanted to get up and move around. Not yet. I still need to untie your cat pants. Murphy quickly helped to comfort the little guy. The cat pants were actually tied up with gauze. Yang Yi was afraid that Xiao Guai would break free, so he tied a dead knot. Now that its mission was completed, Yang Yi cut it with scissors and then pulled it back. The whole gauze came off. Is it done? Shishi saw that Xiao Guai had returned to its original state. Her mood was finally a little better. She asked nervously. Yang Yi let go of Xiao Guai's hand and patted its back. He smiled and said, "Okay, go play with it. But you still have to be careful. Don't let it scratch you." "Xiao Guai won't scratch me." Shishi pouted and said unhappily, "Xiao Guai is very obedient." Yang Yi still wanted to see how Xiao Guai was recovering, so he was not in a hurry to untie the next cat. Instead, he looked at it with concern. Xiao Guai shook its body and stood up comfortably. Of course, it was still a little uncomfortable to walk normally again. When it walked, its body was slanted. It was also very smart. It rubbed against Shishi's feet and wriggled around. Xiao Guai is done. Shishi saw that her cat was alive and kicking, and her worries were finally swept away. The little girl revealed a bright smile. Looking at the little girl smiling with her eyes and mouth wide open, she really looked like a little angel. Meow. Xiao Guai raised its head and meowed at its little owner. Seeing that Shishi and Xiao Guai were having fun, and that Xiao Guai did not show any abnormalities, Yang Yi was relieved. He got up and grabbed Xiao Gray. Xiao Gray was a little afraid of this poop picker. When it saw Yang Yi coming over, it wanted to hide, but it was no match for Yang Yi. As soon as it jumped away, it was caught in the air by Yang Yi's big hand. Then Yang Yi grabbed the fur behind its neck and brought it back. Xiao Gray is getting more and more naughty. Murphy looked at Xiao Gray, who was still twisting around. She smiled and complained to Yang Yi. "Out of the 3 cats, it's the least clingy. I wanted to play with it, but it ignored me. It forgot that I was the one who saved it, and even gave it a name. Cats are like this. How many cats will take the initiative to get close to people?" Xiao Guai is an exception, but even if it's Xiao Guai, it doesn't seem to care about Shishi all the time. As Yang Yi and Murphy talked and laughed, they had already untied Xiao Gray. Next, it was Dodo's turn. The queen cat did not struggle. It just looked at the poop picker lazily, then narrowed its eyes and let Yang Yi untie its Elizabeth collar. It was as if everything was natural, and Yang Yi was supposed to serve it. Yang Yi cut open the cat's pants with ease as he continued to talk to Murphy. "Compared to cats, dogs are much more loyal. In a few months, I'll go back to my hometown and pick up the dog that Shishi ordered. You'll definitely like it. I actually prefer cats. My papa's farm has a lot of dogs. They're all very scary. When they stand up, they're as tall as a person," Murphy said with lingering fear. "The type of dog at home can't grow that big, and it's very obedient. If you ask it to lie down, it will lie down. I hope it can be more obedient and not be very fierce," Murphy snickered and said. "Otherwise, when the cats and dogs at home fight, there won't be peace. What you said is possible, but it seems that dogs are bullied by cats." Yang Yi thought of the videos on the internet in his previous life where dogs were bullied by kittens that were several times smaller than themselves. While they were talking, Yang Yi had already helped Dodo take off the cat's pants. Dodo slowly walked back and jumped onto the cat tree. Its posture was still very strong, which meant that it might just be lazy, but it did not recover slowly. At this time, Shishi ran over with her plastic shoes squeaking. She anxiously shook her father's hand and said, "Papa, look, is Xiao Gray sick?" "What's wrong with Xiao Gray?" Yang Yi and Murphy walked over and saw Xiao Gray hiding in the corner. It nestled on the soft cotton cushion, turned over like a human, and then lowered its head to look at its slightly red buttocks. Perhaps it heard the movement of its owner, so it raised its head, looked at its owner, then lowered its head again and stretched out its paw to touch it. Meow. Xiao Gray raised its head again, looked at its owners with a confused face, and opened its mouth to meow. Yang Yi and Murphy's expressions were a bit strange. They looked at each other, and saw that each other was trying to hold back their laughter. Xiao Gray lowered its head to lick the part of its operation, but it was obviously not right. The place where the two balls used to be was now flat like the name of a certain princess. Ow! Xiao Gray raised its head again, as if it was in despair, and it meowed again. How sad this meow was. The meow was nothing, but what was interesting was its big round face and its sitting posture. Murphy finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. Mom, what's wrong with Xiao Gray? She didn't understand, and she still asked worriedly. Nothing. Yang Yi saw that Murphy was laughing so hard that she turned her head away in embarrassment, so he helped to explain. It just realized that something about itself is missing, so it's a bit sad. Ah. She blinked her big eyes in confusion. Just like your doll, if it's missing, you'll be sad too. Yang Yi gave an example. Don't worry, cats are very adaptable, they'll get used to it in 2 days. She understood, but the little girl turned her head to look at Xiao Gray, who was doubting its life as a cat, and seemed to be a bit emotional. She sadly said to her father, Papa, what's missing about Xiao Gray? Can you help it find it? Yang Yi looked at his daughter, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, and really didn't know how to answer. Could this thing be found? Even if it was found, could it be put back? Chapter 420. Fairy Tale was really popular. After half a week of screening, the mainstream media couldn't ignore its influence. They began to report on this video that was labeled as the first microfilm. Because of the mainstream media's coverage, Fairy Tale had more than 10 million views after 5 days of screening. In this era, this number still had a very significant meaning. Of course, a microfilm like Fairy Tale wasn't about money. It couldn't be loved by everyone. There would be praise, but there would also be slander. In the mainstream media's reports, there were many doubts, attacks, and denials. The graphics are rough, the actors' acting skills are average, and the plot is created to make people cry. How did Fairy Tale become popular? Is it because of a song by Mu Xiang? Fairy Tale lacks the qualities of a good film, whether it's in terms of ideology or artistry. For example, Monthly Movie Magazine bluntly stated that Fairy Tale wasn't a movie at all. It was just a music video that used the gimmick of a movie. There was even a former art film director who is now a professional film critic and producer, Lu Chun, who criticized the competition organized by microbroadcasting in his column. A 10-minute microfilm can't possibly be made into a movie. It's at most a skit. Please don't use it as a movie. However, Fairy Tale became more and more popular under the mainstream media's doubts. Many people registered microbroadcasting accounts just to watch the video. After watching it, even if they didn't praise it, they tried their best to defend Fairy Tale. For the first time, there was a confrontation between the mainstream media and online public opinion. What was surprising was that the mainstream media, which was originally considered a regular army, could not shake the motley crew. On the contrary, the momentum of online public opinion was getting stronger and stronger. The reputation of Fairy Tale was gradually established by word of mouth. The microfilm competition organized by Weibo also caught the attention of many young people who were interested in making movies. Putting aside those small fries for the time being, some young directors and actors who were full of talent but had nowhere to display their talents at schools such as Beijing Film Academy, Jiangqing Media University, Shanghai Drama Academy, and so on, who had directing and performing majors, were eager to make a move. The highest prize was 1 million yuan. Moreover, it was just a microfilm. This wasn't a high requirement. Therefore, many people called their friends and gathered together to write the script. Since they wanted to win the championship, they had to do their best. Of course, although the mainstream media was scolding, they could not represent the opinions of the entertainment industry. There were many people with foresight in the entertainment companies, agencies, and even record companies. They abandoned their prejudices and saw the excellence of Fairy Tale. Qinwen, who had already signed with an agency, could still get a little piece. However, Guizi, the male lead, and the director, Du Yuanlei, were harassed by a lot of talent scouts and agents who came out of nowhere. When they found out that they had not signed with an agency, they were like wild dogs chasing after them. It's too scary. They've all come to my dormitory, so I can only come to the coffee shop to avoid the limelight. On Saturday, Guizi stayed in the cafe to chat with Ding Xiang and Yang Huan. Of course, he was also forced by Ding Xiang to serve coffee to the customers. It just so happened that Lin Mu and had gone to a competition today, and the coffee shop was short of manpower. Usually Lin Muan, the pianist, would take on the role of a waiter. Why didn't you agree to sign the contract? It's such a good opportunity. Yang Huan said with a smile. I don't want to sign with an agency and be cheated. Guizi was a little smart. He smiled and said, didn't Brother Yang tell me about 1,000 Miles Chuanshu's experience last time? Let me tell you, Rong Huada's agency also approached me. I didn't know how disgusting they were at that time. Ding Xiang said with concern. Fortunately, you didn't sign the contract at that time. Hehe, the reason I didn't agree at that time was that they wanted me to be a singer. But I don't like being a singer. I like acting in movies. Let me tell you, actors have to keep a low profile. They can't appear in the media every day, so that the audience can maintain a sense of freshness when they see you on the screen. Guizi couldn't stop talking. Otherwise, when everyone accepts your usual character, they will think that your role in the movie is very fake. Yang Huan patted Guizi's shoulder casually and said with a smile, that's right. Take you for example. I know that you're very funny, but Sister Ding Xiang and I both thought that your role as Aguang was very fake. You're not the kind of quiet person who doesn't speak a word. If you didn't speak, you would have been suffocated to death. Hehe. Guizi smiled but didn't say anything. Ding Xiang was still thinking about the previous topic. She pulled Yang Huan's hand and said, Huan, you're going to be an actress in the future. You must be careful. Don't be cheated by others. If a girl is cheated, the consequences will be more serious. Yang Huan's right hand formed a claw, palm facing up, and then clenched tightly into a fist. She waved it proudly and said to Ding Xiang, Sister Ding Xiang, don't worry. I'm not afraid. If anyone dares to cheat me, I'll beat him up with one punch. Come on, don't be so naive. In today's society, it's not an era where you can solve problems with your fists. Besides, no matter how big your fists are, if someone really wants to trick you, they can do whatever they want after drugging you. It's better to be careful. Guizi had heard a lot of such stories in the film and television base in Beijing. Although it was inconvenient for him to talk about it in detail, he still told Yang Huan directly. Yang Huan was stunned. She was inexperienced and didn't expect it to be so complicated. Hearing this, Ding Xiang looked at Yang Huan worriedly and said, Huan, I think Xiaoguo is right. Don't let your guard down. But Sister Huan, you don't have to worry too much. Guizi smiled and said, don't you have your brother and sister-in-law? Why don't you just sign with some unknown agency? Just sign with your brother and sister-in-law's studio. With them watching over you, you don't have to worry about those dirty things. Yang Huan asked in confusion, my brother and sister-in-law's studio? Isn't that their own studio? How can they sign with others? Besides, don't they specialize in singers? Guizi rolled his eyes and said, the nature of a studio is actually an agency. It's just a small one. Who says that individual studios can't sign with other stars? There are a lot of similar situations in the entertainment industry. However, only the studios of famous people are willing to work with them. Moreover, they won't sign with other stars casually. They also need to make money. As for the crossover issue, you don't have to worry about it. The micro-movie Fairy Tale is being released under the studio's name. Guizi smiled and said, Sister Murphy is indeed an independent artist, but Brother Yang is different. He doesn't only know how to write songs. He can also write scripts. Didn't he write a script for Director Du? I still want to wait for Director Du to finish studying the script and see if I can get a role. Ding Xiang suddenly interrupted Yang Huan when she was deep in thought. She said to Guizi, why don't you consider signing with Brother Yang's studio? He won't trick you. That's right. Guizi hadn't thought about it yet. He was also deep in thought. At this moment, Yang Yi came back from planting flowers with Shishi and Murphy. Guazi, it's already noon and you still don't want to go back to the dormitory. Don't tell me you want to sneak into the girls' rented apartment? That you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.